The story begins with a young man playing a computer game late at night, all alone. The hero was completely delighted to discover that he had received a valuable reward in the game. His cries of joy filled the room as he discovered that Yusu's rare 6-star card had been dropped. The guy wanted to quickly share his success and brag about it. On the gaming forum, he immediately posted a screenshot of his rare 6-star character card. This caused admiration among the forum participants, and everyone was happy for the guy. The main character's name was Li Yuan. He was an enthusiastic player of an online xianxia game called Pleas from Heaven, which is a multiplayer role-playing MMORPG in the xianxia genre. Unlike other online games, this game featured high-quality graphics, many character customization options, and, more importantly, an artificial intelligence system in the NPCs, creating the illusion of being in a perfect world. Li Yuan was keen on compiling a guide to all the girls in the game world of Prayer from Heaven. 6-star character card that day, but that was just the beginning, as the game's update brought many new cards. Suddenly, the hero's heart began to beat faster. Feeling acute pain, the guy grabbed his chest, not understanding what was happening to him. It was as if someone spoke to him through the monitor and greeted him. It was the same character from the 6-star card that greeted Junxuanya. Li Yuan lost consciousness from the pain. When he woke up, he found himself in an unfamiliar room. Sitting at the table, he noticed a girl on the bed next to him. An unknown spirit seemed to invade his mind while he was in this unknown room. Because of this invasion of the entity, the guy stood up abruptly. He looked around the room anxiously, not understanding where he was or what had happened. When Li Yuan stood up, the girl turned to him and called him her brother, Junxuanam. The sweet girl cried because she did not want to get married. The surprised guy, hearing his game name, could not understand how she found out his game ID. Taking a closer look at the girl, the hero began to remember that he seemed to have seen her somewhere before. Li Yuan still couldn't figure out why the little girl was crying. After a moment, memories began to return. He remembered sitting in his room and interacting with this character in a computer game. During the game, the character asked Li Yuan if he remembered how many moles she had on her body. A regular at the game knew the answer. She had only 3 moles, one on her face, the second on her neck, and the third in a secret place. Realizing this, the guy began to wonder if he could get into this world for at least one day. Remembering his game, Li Yuan also remembered the girl's name. Her name was Gu Xian. She was Gu's younger sister. Fei Dao, owner of the Qi Manor Yu. In the game, she was the first NPC to meet him in the world of Prayer from Heaven. Ignoring the girl, Li continued to wonder if there was a system here like in the game. He then tensed his whole body, trying to call the system. His face turned red and sweat began to run down his face, but his efforts were in vain. When Li Yuan realized that he was failing, he began to wonder if the environment here was wrong or if he was doing something wrong. The frustrated guy didn't know how to call the system. The worried girl turned to Li Yuan to find out what was happening to him. This surprised the hero because at the beginning of the game, Gu Xian was quite stubborn towards the player, but now she seemed very close. This was due to the relationship between Li Yuan and Gu Xian, which were marked as love even after death, and at that moment, the guy realized that a system of relationships still exists here. And the relationship scale was completely filled. There were 10 levels in the game's feelings of the characters pleading from heaven, and for every 10th level of connection, the interval was set from -50 to +50, and there were 10 levels of feelings. And depending on the degree of relationship, the feelings gradually changed. The upset girl understood that her brother, Junxuan, was very embarrassed at the moment. She told about Shuyu's School of Immortals, while Qi Manor Yu only practiced water magic and they would not be able to withstand the threat. Li Yuan was deeply worried about the girl's condition and sincerely sympathized with her. He knew she was worried, and he took her hand, promising her that everything would be okay. After all, this was the girl he met for the first time, the hero thought. She continued to look at him with tears in her eyes, crying and begging. Throwing herself into his arms, the girl exclaimed that she did not want to marry him, since she wanted to stay with brother Junshwanim. The modest guy was amazed at how close she snuggled up to him and even hugged him. For a long time, she was in his arms, looking for support and consolation. And finally, tired, she fell asleep. Carefully, Li Yuan laid her down on the bed so she could rest. It suddenly occurred to him that the events in the Qi Manor, Yu in the newcomer village, was the beginning of a chapter in the plot. The avid gamer understood that he would have to relive all the events again, and he would have to face the main antagonist. While staying at Qi Manor Yu, Guxian suddenly kissed Shui Lin. Shui Lin was once a genius in the Shui family, but after one offense, his dantian was destroyed and he became useless, and soon he became Shu Yue's disciple and again proposed marriage to Gu Xian, and yet she refused this idea. This provided an opportunity to develop a chain of events and unravel the secrets that had been hidden in the Qi estate for thousands of years. And this was a key point in the plot. Realizing that he would have to meet the antagonist again, the hero was ready for battle. He was eager to gain access to the inventory because he realized that the relationship system might not be of much help to him in this new reality. Suddenly, the relationship system was activated and a mysterious ball appeared in front of the hero. A list of characters and their relationships opened before him. He was delighted that he still had access to the game cards. At the moment, Li Yuan could only see Gu's status Xian. He studied the card, which showed the girl's characteristics and the number of character stars. Realizing that the card's abilities were not very impressive, he realized that it could be useful in the future. To learn more about the features, he needed to confirm viewing the characteristics. Suddenly, a mystical red book appeared in front of the guy, flying straight towards him. He watched with admiration what was happening in front of him. Looking around, he realized that it was all over, but he did not feel anything strange and realized that this thing now belonged to him. Taking a deep breath, Li Yuan thought about what he would do next. After a moment, he turned his attention to the sleeping Gu Xian, and I wondered if it was comfortable for her to sleep in clothes. Having made a decision, he realized that she needed to help her take off her clothes and not to worry. Thus, the girl ended up in bed linen and continued to sleep. Calming himself, the hero realized that it was just a t-shirt and shorts, and he should hurry to throw on a blanket. The guy exhaled with relief and was about to leave her bed. It was already quite late, and he had better get home quickly to avoid getting into trouble. Using his agility, the hero jumped out of the window to avoid being noticed. But suddenly he realized that there was no ground under him, and he began to freely fall. Seeing him fall from the third floor, the terrible thought of dying from the fall struck him. Falling from a great height, he did several somersaults. Thus, he landed perfectly on the ground unharmed. Raising his head, Li Yuan was surprised at his abilities. He realized that he had landed so perfectly as if it were a reflex. He also happily realized that the relationship attributes on his chart were working well. The girl who was observing the events turned to Jun Xuanyu, asking what he is doing here in the middle of the night. Turning around, Li Yuan wanted to know who was speaking to him. It turned out that it was Fu Huan, and they had the status of lovers within the game. Seeing the girl, Li Yuan remembered that she was the second NPC at the beginning of the game. In the game, Plea from Heaven, Fu Huan was an NPC who helped the injured player in the mountains. Raising a helping hand, she offered to go with her. The initial mission for beginners with Fu Huan, she was always precise and confident. Sitting on the roof, Fu Huan carefully watched the guy and waited for an answer. Embarrassed, Li Yuan said that he has insomnia, and that's why he walks at night. He then decided to ask Fu Huan what she was doing here at such a late hour. Polite Fu Huan jumped from the roof, approaching the hero. She said that recently, something strange has been happening in the estate, and a new generation of students is causing problems, so she was assigned to monitor the events. Hearing the girl's answer, Li Yuan smiled, knowing that Fu Wan was a true tsundere, and all the players in Heaven's Prayer knew it. Guessing the reason for her presence, Li Yuan asked if she was worried about him. Fu Huan replied that she was carrying out the task assigned to her and was not worried about the guy. After thinking about the answer, the hero realized that he did not want to deal with Fu Huan because of her arrogance, which became obvious. The girl turned away, and he expressed gratitude to her. Fu Huan said that he had better return home quickly, because if something happens, no one will help except her. The girl's last words caught his attention, and he thought about her sincerity and kindness. When he was home, he lit a candle to illuminate the room. It had been a hard day, and he was glad to be home. In his bed, he found a beginner's guide. Surprised, he began to read, discovering that it was a complete guide to the game Plea from Heaven for Beginners. This textbook described various techniques and secrets of the game. With delight, he immersed himself in reading and studying the contents of the manual. Li Yuan discovered that he could actually use the information in the book, which was a real discovery for him. While busy studying, he began to realize that this could be a blessing for his adventures in the game. While practicing the lotus position, the hero decided to try a new technique. The magical energy created by his meditation began to concentrate around him. Fu Huan, sitting on a tree branch, watched him and thought about his behavior. She realized that she didn't know what might be waiting for this cultivator. Watching Li Yuan, she realized that he should not attract the attention of cultivators with his behavior. Suddenly, she realized something important and became embarrassed. She tried to calm herself, knowing that she shouldn't worry about him. Things continued with the events that happened the next morning. Li Yuan continued to strengthen his cultivation skills. However, while in the lotus position, he suddenly fell asleep. Suddenly, he staggered and felt a strange sensation. Feeling pain, he grabbed his head and began scratching it. Looking out the window, he realized that morning had already come. Although other systems never appeared, he still had a system of relationships, and he was glad that at least something was working. He realized that through a system of relationships, he could gain experience and develop his abilities. Thanks to his enhanced cultivation, Li Yuan was able to successfully upgrade his qi to the first level in one night, and he was still afraid that he would not be able to compare with the protagonist. At the current level of power, this was completely insufficient, since the first level of qi did not give him the opportunity to complete the storyline. There was no way to gain experience by killing small animals, and such behavior might seem crazy, especially in the context of this game. If a hero is looking to gain experience faster, he has access to training, paid experience, and the ability to receive daily login rewards, but there may be other ways to acquire it. An experience scroll was discovered in the game, created by a hermit named Shi Qian. Realizing that this method of pumping was available, the hero immediately decided to find Shi Qian. After looking through the character cards, the hero finally found the desired hermit. But at the moment, there was no way to view the attributes of their relationship. With a confident smile, Li Yuan was delighted to find that his cards included men and decided to ask the hermit for help in gaining experience. Picking up his sword, the guy prepared to go in search of adventure. When the door opened, he was ready to begin his journey in search of the hermit. Huan appeared in front of him, standing at the exit from his apartment. Seeing the girl, the guy noticed that she was wearing a mask. Remembering that the tsundere first appeared in front of him wearing a mask, he thought about it. Looking at Li Yuan, the girl decided that he had changed overnight. The embarrassed girl believed that he was still recovering from the night before, so she came to make sure he was okay. The guy wasn't too bothered by this observation. The hero had an idea and he remembered that a bottle of wine was buried on Mount Hua and invited the girl to drink a glass. Fu Huan loved martial arts and wine, but she knew that Hua Mountain was home to many wild animals, and she assumed that while he was digging up the bottle, it would be eaten, so she would rather buy wine at the tavern. Li Yuan understood that this could be difficult, and the anxious girl craved his attention. The guy left the apartment and promised to drink together next time. He knew he had things to do first, but first he wanted to check where the plot stood. Events unfolded in the Qi Estate U. Approaching cautiously, the hero tried not to attract attention to himself. Suddenly, a noise was heard in the estate. The girl shouted that she was not going to participate in the wedding and would never marry him. Li Yuan immediately recognized from the voice that it was Little Xian. It was located in the main building of the estate. She continued to scream that she did not agree with this marriage and wanted those who were forcing her to give up. Someone else replied that the decision about marriage is not up to the girl. He asked Gu Zhuangzhu, what does he think about it? Wise Gu Zhuangzhou said that if the girl decided so, then the elder would not insist and the guy should leave. The persistent guy shouted again to Gu Zhuangzhou thought, well, because if he refused, he would have to confront Shuyo. The man replied that although he was old, he had walked the path of cultivation, and even if Shuyo was here, he should show respect. Then, Gu Zhuangzhou was indignant, not understanding how the younger could be so ignorant. He created a magical sphere to protect himself. The impudent man realized that he was stronger than the elders. Gu Power Zhuangzhou approached him. The girl watching the scene also felt an energy of incredible power. She calmly continued to drink tea. Li Yuan couldn't understand why they started fighting. He was shocked because this was not in the original story. The insolent man shouted that the old man was only a mortal and should not be so arrogant. As if in response to this, the impudent man attacked him. The elder was amazed at the speed of the attack, but was ready to repel the insolent attack. Within an instant, the treacherous strike had almost reached Chu Guangzhou. The wise man easily repelled the young guy's attack. Li Yuan rushed to help when he saw that Xian was in danger due to the fight. When he heard steps towards him, the guy shouted so that no one should dare disturb him. He believed that the Qi Estate Yu and the people in her live up to her reputation. Using his immense strength, he released one of his most powerful attacks. This attack literally destroyed the ground under their feet. Fortunately, the attack did not hit the hero, and he began to make his way through the cloud of dust that rose from the impact. The insolent strength did not frighten Li Yuan, as he was determined to protect Xian. Seeing that Li Yuan remained standing, the insolent man was surprised and did not understand how a mere mortal could evade his attack. Xian was overjoyed, shouting that her brother Junshuan came to save her. The other girl was also surprised to find that it was Junshuan. The hero breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that fortunately, Ning Shangrong was also here. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for him. Ning Shangrong was also a 3-star character, but her stats were much higher than Xian's. A bright light flashed in front of the hero, and he felt that a new force was approaching him. Feeling the improvement in his stats, he realized that he had become a little stronger. Suddenly, there was another blow from the immortal, which Li Yuan also easily dodged. Part of the house was destroyed due to an attack by an immortal, and the hero apologized for this. Li Yuan was annoyed with himself, knowing that he should not have interfered, and now the plot seemed to be developing differently than he expected. Ning Shangrong turned to the main character in amazement and asked if it was true Junshuan. When she was sure that it was really him, she threw herself into his arms since it was very difficult to find him. This plot twist surprised everyone in the room. During the hug, Li Yuan thought that this was the same shy Ning Shangrong he knew, and that the situation was becoming more and more confusing. The girl was upset because 3 years ago, Li Yuan left without saying goodbye, and she was looking for him, thinking that she would never see him in this life. The hero reflected that Ning Shengrong is the daughter of Master Shuiyue, a top second-level immortal and the heiress of Shuiyue, the first beauty in the cultivation world. And yet she did not have powerful techniques, and she rose to the top second level, and in the 4-star map, her skills are significantly intensified. Overcoming his awkwardness, Li Yuan replied that he did not expect to meet her here, that he was a little embarrassed for interfering in the battle. But they could talk later, because he was about to leave now. The upset girl exclaimed that this time she would not let him leave. After that, Ning began to hold Li's hand. Li Yuan admitted that they had not seen each other for a long time, and he treated her carelessly and had to leave. He didn't really know why he left, perhaps due to problems with the relationship system or a change in the plot. He was also aware that his fighting skills might seem strange to them. Li Yuan remembered how Ning went for a swim in the lake one evening and was glad that there was no one around so she could swim in peace. The wily Li Yuan knew that in order to have an advantage over such a valuable character, he would need to steal her clothes while she was bathing. Suddenly he stepped on a dry leaf. The embarrassed lady instantly turned around, realizing that there was someone behind her. Calling Li Yuan shameless, she demanded that her clothes be returned to her. Closing his eyes, the guy embarrassedly said that this was not what she thought, and that he did not see anything. This only confused the girl more, and she ordered him not to look at her. After that, she wanted to know where her clothes were. By way of explanation, the hero said that it was just a misunderstanding and her clothes were lying next to the stone. Immediately after this, the girl came out of the water and calmly got dressed, and after this incident, his relationship with Ning Shangrong improved, and finally it was time to explain the whole situation. Although he had done this before, he still felt awkward. Sheen, who was watching everything that was happening, was outraged and wanted to know what was happening here. Approaching the hero, she asked how Jun Yuan knew Ning. Xian then ordered the girl to stay away from the guy. Xian grabbed her brother and did not want to let him go, because she believed that he would be hers now and in the future. Suddenly, someone behind them shouted what they had done here. It was an immortal guy who wanted to know who this Jun Yuan was. The immortal also wanted to know if Sister Ning had any relationship with him. The indignant girl replied that this did not concern him. The hero approached and told Rongrong that he would explain everything later. The embittered Rongrong, watching the hero, also wanted to find out who he really was. Unfolding his magic fan, he shouted that he would kill him today. Li Yuan, meanwhile, was thinking that he had recently improved his attributes, and this should be enough to defeat this guy. And although he is much stronger than the hero, Li was going to use his strength to the fullest. And he decided that it was worth trying to fight. Taking out his magic sword, the guy bravely called on the impudent man to attack him. Immortal Rongrong launched an attack and tried to destroy Li Yuan. In anticipation of the battle, the hero thought that this was his first real battle after getting into the game from a prayer from above. A powerful attack was delivered directly to the guy, and he stood rooted to the spot, wondering what to do next. It was the power of the spirit of water and clouds. The enemy immediately created 6 spheres of smoke. While Li Yuan dealt with them, Rongrong continued to attack. The guy decided to jump in order to dodge the spheres, and most importantly, to avoid the explosive force. Feeling the tension, the hero continued the fight with the villain. The immortal shouted that Li Yuan dodged well, but don't think that the enemy will give up so easily. A moment later, the azure water spiritual sword attack was used. Once the Zanpakuto touched a soul, it would be instantly destroyed, and the speed of his attacks was extreme, even for an experienced hero, let alone beginners. Feeling furious, The enemy could not believe that the hero dodged again. Avoiding taking damage is important, and the average player can easily dodge attacks, but there are other ways to avoid this. Whether it was the fog or the spikes, they had one big drawback: they were too light. To use his power, Yue Longzhang needed to use the fan while standing in one place. Li Yuan realized that now it was necessary to use ranged skills to disperse the fog, and otherwise Yue Longzhang was in danger. Fearless Wars continued to attack one after another, and Li Yuan used the Warm Wind Master skill. He then attacked the Wind Island with his sword. Using the 10 Directions skill, he made 10 attacks on the enemy. To win this battle, the hero used clouds and waves. Thus, he dealt powerful blows to the Great Master. Yue Longzhang was hit by many attacks and stood rooted to the spot, trying to counterattack. He soon had to retreat, and he could not understand how the enemy had broken through his shield, and the immortal could not understand how Li Yuan knew this technique. Soon, the hero managed to damage the immortal's body using the Wind Island sword technique. Depressed, Yue Longzhang fell to the floor and could not understand where Li Yuan got so much strength and knowledge of all these techniques, and this was the famous technique of the Shuyue school of clouds and waves. He realized that the elders in Shuyue were not masters like him. As a player, Li Yuan knew all of these techniques and could use them even now. The final attack resulted in a huge explosion. Most of the furniture was destroyed due to the two guys fighting. Ning, with the help of a magical shield, was able to protect everyone present in the house. The hero easily jumped out of the fog of battle. The sword crossed with the fan when the guy suddenly used an attack from the air to defeat the impudent man. Li invited the arrogant enemy to fight hand to hand. Then he struck a crushing blow with his sword, but Yue Longzhang managed to reflect it. Using a fan, the arrogant guy again used his magical abilities. He fired several small and sharp darts directly at his opponent. The hero did not expect such a blow and was stunned. Having created an improvised defense, he easily repelled the attack with small darts. Yue was unhappy as he couldn't understand how his opponent continued to stand after his Azure Water Zanpakuto technique. For Li Yuan, all these techniques were too simple, since they were in his DNA, and he only had to activate them. Xin watched her brother Jun with pride, Xuan, and he was amazing. Courageously, the hero exclaimed that Yue only knows how to show off his strength, but in this battle, he does nothing but retreat. The enemy was exhausted and angry. He shouted that the first thing Li Yuan said when he came here was the name Xiyin. Suddenly, the impudent man began to attack, but not the hero. He rushed towards Xiyin to attack her. The sweet girl begged her hero to help her. Turning around, the guy was about to run and save the girl. But suddenly, Ning Shangrong used the heavenly moon reflection technique. Thus, she created a powerful shield right next to Xiyin. Upon hitting it, a gigantic cloud of smoke appeared and an explosion was heard. Jun Xuan, experiencing incredible pain, asked his sister why she was helping this stranger, because of this, they could expel her from school. But for her, the hero was not a stranger at all. After all, she knew him well and was ready to protect him. The brother rose to his feet and plaintively asked who he was to her then. The sweet girl exclaimed that Li Yuan was her future husband. Yue was as angry as wild animals and thought his sister was joking. Suddenly, from powerlessness, he fell to the ground and did not move. His brother immediately rushed to his aid. He stood over his brother and asked him if he could hear him. With horror, Brother Yu realized that his brother was dead. No one could understand how this was possible, and everyone stood rooted to the spot and watched what was happening. The hero began to worry, and he did not plan to kill him, and his strategy had many ways to eliminate Yue Longzhang, but he would never choose death. The concerned guy asked everyone present if they could prove that Yue Longzhang attacked him first, and he only defended himself and did not intend to kill him. One of the witnesses said that Li Yuan really should have resisted. At this time, the man reflected on the cruelty of this man and how this was an insult to heaven. If the man had not been hiding behind the master, he might have been confused with them. Li Yuan walked up to Brother Yue and asked what he was doing here. The indignant brother replied that he needed to take his brother's body. The hero smiled and thought that his brother was clearly a demon hiding under cover. Li started talking about how Yue Longzhang knew poisons well and probably always carried poison with him, and since he is his younger brother, he probably knows how to extract the poison before the funeral. But the brother did not understand what the hero said at all and ordered him not to interfere. Enthusiastically, the hero suggested cremating Yue. The brother was shocked by what he heard. But at this time, he thought that this scoundrel was again trying to interfere with him. The immortality practitioner expressed his condolences and said that brother should find a private place to express all his feelings to his brother, since Li believed that now it would be more beneficial for brother to turn Yue into his puppet. With relief, the guy said that he had already done it. The hero asked permission to give a blessing. And as a blessing, he gave me a spiritual butterfly that would help find the poison. The ghostly butterfly immediately flew to the guy. Out of fear, the nervous brother shouted that it was a phantom. Li confirmed that it was indeed a phantom and the guy should take care of her. According to the plot of the game, Mo Shu is one of the most powerful demons in the clan, which hides in the south of the continent of immortals, hiding its true nature under a mask. This clan worships an 8-faced deity named Luo Tian, and it is said that his return will bring destruction and rebirth to the world. Luo Shenqian continued to search for Luo Tian's whereabouts. While the player completes the mission at Qi Manor Yu, Ma Shu and Yue Longzhang manages to escape together. Yue Longzhang becomes a puppet in the hands of Ma Shu and one of the invincible bosses. However, the plot begins to change greatly. Li Yuan understands that the plot can no longer be changed. They turn to the owner Gu to reschedule the show after the bloody battle. The owner agrees, but notes that they need to figure things out, so they will live together for now. Ning doesn't mind living together, but she has one request. Jun lives Swan because she wants to be with him. Xiyin is outraged because she wanted to be with the main character. Mr. Gu orders his daughter to be more polite to guests. Li Yuan thinks that women are often troublesome, and he doesn't understand them at all. Soon the owner wants to say something else. He asks the young man if he knows this little girl. The lady admiringly says that it is so. Interrupting the conversation, the guy takes the initiative and announces that he is her teacher. He adds that he noticed Xiyin's talent from the very beginning and began secretly training her to help her follow the heavenly path. The girl in love looks at the hero and exclaims that he is her teacher. She admiringly says that he has always been her support. But soon she becomes indignant, thinking that Brother Junsuan doesn't want them to be together. At this moment, Li Yuan mentally tells her to listen to him and promises not to let her marry someone else. It seemed to the girl that a spiritual connection had arisen between them, and Li Yuan nodded to her as a hint. She began to think that if he did not allow her to marry someone else, this might be a confession. The delighted girl watched Junshuanim realize that he had planned everything. She confirmed with her father that Li Yuan was indeed her teacher. Relieved, Li Yuan finally calmed down, realizing that everything was over. He realized that he behaved differently with each character in the game, using his own strategy, and now he did not understand how others saw him. As he thought about this, he realized that if he disappointed them, the consequences could be disastrous. With a smile on his face, he realized that he played many roles within the game. Deciding to return to this later, he hurried away. A moment later, the hero found himself on the street, enjoying the fresh air. Moving towards the exit, he thought about how else he could improve his level. Suddenly, he heard Hadon scream, which frightened him. Someone at the exit was calling Heshi, trying to take over the heavens. Li Yuan realized that this was another character who played a role, and there was no room for jokes. As he passed by, he decided to ignore them. But soon, the guy who was shouting called on him to stop. They approached each other, and Li Yuan realized that this guy was the main character. It was Shui Lin, a member of the mission to Chai Manor Yu on the termination of the marriage contract, and the main character in the game's plot, the student of Shu'er. There was an awkward silence, and Li realized that Yue Longzhang is dead, so he cannot offer him his hand and heart, let alone a contract. He apologized and said goodbye to Shui Lin as if nothing special had happened. The guy soon realized that this was the perfect plan. Since there is a main character, there must be a main character. Shui was still in love with his childhood friend. The guy was stunned to learn that Li knew so much about him. Cunning Li acted out this scene knowing the whole story. He talked about Zhuan Yunair, with whom he is in love, and the circumstances surrounding their kiss. Shocked, Shui asked Li to stop. He wanted to know who Li was and what he wanted from him. Li Yuan replied that he was here to help him. Shui was surprised and stated that he did not ask anyone for help. Li Yuan insisted on his decision, warning that he would still keep an eye on Yunair. Shui Lin did not know the essence of the marriage contract for Shui Yueo, and Li Yuan promised to return in 3 days. Hearing about this, Shui was horrified and asked if it was true that his teacher Yu was dead. Li Yuan assured him that he would come for him in 3 days, and that he would only have one chance, because it is up to him whether he will use it or not. Elder brother Li Yuan suddenly disappeared, and Shui tried to find him. The hero watched everything, realizing that knowledge about the characters of the game in which he found himself was his powerful weapon. If it is necessary to deceive an NPC, this would be the surest way. He jumped down from the tree and went to look for Ma Shu to find out where he was going. After finding Ma Shu, Li Yuan saw him processing Yue's body, Longzhang. Suddenly, Ma Shu cast a fire spell. He pointed it at Yue's lifeless body Longzhang, who was lying on the ground. Evil spirits began to emerge from Yue, and with them a hellish scream was heard. The hellish demons wanted to attack Ma Shu, but a spiritual butterfly appeared in front of him. Several parts of her wings began to disappear, but this butterfly was special. The phantom butterfly tried to protect Ma Shu from the demons. When the phantom met the demons, an explosion occurred and blue smoke appeared. Seeing this, Ma Shu realized that Yue Longzhang was just trash and didn't mean anything. Next, he remembered Li Yuan and thought about his true identity and possible connections with the Devil clan. Suddenly, Li Yuan appeared behind the guy. He tried to draw Ma Shu's attention and said that he did not have dark magic. Frightened, Ma Shu wanted to understand who he was. Chai Manor Yu and Shangyang had never gotten along, and he couldn't understand what Li was doing here. In fact, Li was well acquainted with Shangyang, but he did not possess dark magic as he claimed, and he was sent to Zhanhai Tower after an accident. Ma Shu was horrified when he heard about the Zhanhai Tower, which was located on the edge of a cliff by the sea. Zhanhai Tower was located on the edge of the Yonghuai Cliff by the sea, east of the city of Zhongzhou, and was guarded against demons and practitioners of dark magic. There were countless strong masters in Zhanhai Tower, and no one from Shangyang would even set foot there. Zhanhai Tower was a Taoist monk, blind in both eyes, but he remained one of the most powerful masters. At this time, Ma Shu thought that Li Yuan had been sent to Zhanhai Tower, and he could not believe how powerful this man was. An excited Ma Shu exclaimed that it was no wonder the hero was so strong. Turning to Li Yuan, Ma Shu asked if he needed any help. Mutually fixing their gaze on each other, the hero realized that it was quite simple. Ma Shu asked if Li needed any help to contact his teacher, since he had connections, but Ma Shu explained that it might not be an easy task, and he might not be able to help, because he really didn't know how to contact his teacher. Suddenly, Ma Shu had an idea. Ma Shu revealed that the master wanted to meet Shui and accept him as a disciple to teach him sacred techniques. And they just need to wait for the master to arrive. Li Yuan decided to leave and asked him not to forget to inform him. And regarding Yue Longzhang, he clarified that he was the secret representative of the demon clan. Saying goodbye to Ma Shu, the hero said that he expected news from him. Sometime later, the hero walked joyfully along the path, whistling a melody. As he stretched, he was glad that he would finally be able to enjoy his solitude, since interacting with these NPCs seemed unpleasant. After all the events that had happened, Li Yuan felt like a fraud. He realized that he needed to be more careful in what he said in the future. If he doesn't help Xiyin, then his problems will not concern him, and it is best to leave the next morning and practice away from everyone to ensure his safety, considering that there are many NPC bosses in Shangyang, and one is not enough attention to stay alive. In fact, from the point of view of saving his own life, he should have been more careful in his actions, but when he thought of Xiyin, his heart trembled with anxiety. He was afraid that the girl might marry someone else, and this fear was tearing his heart apart. Realizing that he could not allow such an outcome, the guy decided that this would only happen through his dead body. Suddenly, a system of relationships appeared before him. If he could go back in time, he would immediately correct all the mistakes. Li Yuan stood on the road and laughed evilly, and behind him, a grandmother and a child passed. Passing by him, the grandmother told her granddaughter to stay away from such strange men. After hearing this, the guy realized that he needed to be careful, since not all non-player characters are friendly. And suddenly, he discovered something amazing. A beautiful landscape spread out in front of him, and numerous houses could be seen, and he realized that this was the city of Xichang. Moments later, events continued to unfold in the city of Xichang, with the hero marveling that even modern simulations in games still couldn't compare to the real world. As he looked around the city, he tried to remember which direction he needed to go. He had to go through a small alley, then turn left and pass by the library, and near this place lived Xiaqian. An unknown man suddenly approached Li Yuan and asked where he was going. It was Ding Liu, a commission agent, and he offered his help and information, saying that they could talk about anything until late. Hearing this, the hero remembered that it was better to avoid Ding Liu, since he had to perform many obsessive tasks because of him. In response, he told Dean that he didn't need help, but he had another question for the commission agent. In a whisper, he asked the man if the wound on his knee, inflicted 20 years ago, had healed. With a wave of his hand, Ding Liu replied that he did not understand what he was talking about, and that his knees were fine, adding that although his legs were short, he did not consider this a reason to be bullied because of his height. When saying goodbye, Li Yuan said that in this case, he would not be able to help him. But he also told Dean that a group of people with cold jade would appear soon, and that would help him recover his knees. As he walked away, the guy concluded that he had no choice. In a few days, a group of people would pass here bringing cold jade, which would help the man recover his knees. Excited, Ding Liu suddenly remembered that 20 years ago, he escaped from Bilu Mansion, and that a fire arrow hit his knee directly, and the pain slowly went away, but he wondered how Li Yuan knew about this wound. Continuing his journey through the city, the hero realized that events had become less favorable, and he no longer wanted to carry out intrusive tasks from Dean Liu. With horror, he realized that while in the game, he would no longer be given a reward for each task, and Ding Liu might wonder where Li Yuan got the information about his injury. Thinking about this, the guy hurried away. Sometime later, events continued to unfold at Xi's residence. Some young man met the hero and asked him to follow him. As Li Yuan admired the surroundings, he realized that the world of rich people was even more magnificent than he had imagined. While sitting in the gazebo, someone remarked that the young gentleman seemed to really like this residence. Several people gathered in the gazebo, and they heard Li Yuan expressing his admiration for the surrounding area. One of those present turned out to be the owner of the residence, Xie. Exclaiming joyfully, the hero noted that he had finally seen like-minded people in the person of Xie. The guy standing nearby bowed and told the gentleman that the man said they had an appointment, and that's why he brought him here. Mr. Xiqian confirmed that the meeting was indeed scheduled. The man then pointed to Xiao Inu that he can go. Concerned, advisor Yuan Kaiwu asked Xiqian who attended their meeting. Li Yuan sat down to talk, and Xiqian exclaimed, asking why he cared. The hero, apparently, did not expect such a disdainful attitude towards himself, and he felt a little embarrassed. The old man was obviously angry when he heard this answer. The guy laughed and apologized, thinking it was funny. The irritated old man exclaimed that Li Yuan was truly rebellious, and he would watch how he behaved in the future. Confused, the hero wondered that despite his laughter, he felt a deadly aura from the old man, realizing that he could actually try to kill him. The wise man turned to the hero and added that he could laugh as much as he wanted and do whatever he wanted, but he should follow the rules of behavior. Turning to Yuan Kai, he insisted that as the eldest, he should treat the young master with respect, otherwise it might look like disrespect for the younger generation. The angry old man thought that today he could talk to the master in person, but now he had called a supporter, and the old man did not know how to continue to show him respect. One man noted that every case has its positive and negative sides, despite the fact that he is now begging him, and other than that, their first meeting was planned with Jun Swanim. The guy was clearly uncomfortable, and he added that if he could travel in time, he would have come even earlier to meet Shi Qian, and he is sure that the old man just wants to set him up, since he has a very important matter regarding Xie. Suddenly, Counselor Hong Li entered the conversation, inquiring about the agreement between the master and Jun Xuanem. Unexpectedly, the guy replied that he had come for several sacred scrolls and had always appreciated Xie's works. Hearing this, Xie Chang concluded that the young master was also an art connoisseur and would therefore hand over several scrolls to him. Unexpectedly, the wise man demonstrated his magical abilities. Using levitation and magic, he lifted 2 sacred scrolls into the air. And then, as if out of nowhere, many sacred scrolls appeared, which instantly opened thanks to his magical abilities. This amazed everyone present, and Li Yuan watched in admiration. However, the old man was indignant, believing that literature, which is the bearer of lofty ideas, should not be treated with such disdain. Instantly, the scrolls were packed into tubes and handed over. As a sign of recognition, Xiqian handed over all the sacred scrolls to the young master. With joy, the hero exclaimed that there were so many scrolls, and the owner of the estate could trust him. The old man's anger knew no bounds. Veins began to stand out on his face. Pointing his finger, he shouted that Xiqian intended to pretend to be a kind person. And he asked why he gave the scrolls to this particular guy, as if he had an agreement with him, and he had the right to take away the work of calligraphy and painting. And the old man understood that he was interfering in his own business, but he was against it. The old man coughed in anger, and Counselor Hong Li ran to her grandfather to help. The worried girl also exclaimed that Mr. Xie should help his grandfather, since only literature, which is the bearer of high ideas, can help stabilize his state of mind in this world. The man replied indifferently that only time will tell. Tears in the girl's eyes, she exclaimed that if he did not help, then grandfather would die. Tears flowed down the girl's cheeks when she offered to give away the treasures of the Fusang Sea, including the golden 3-toed raven of Zhenyang, in exchange for the sacred scriptures. Li Yuan instantly realized that the price for these scrolls was incredibly high. On the map, the Fusan Sea was not yet open to players. It remained uncharted territory. The hero unexpectedly came just for scrolls of experience, and in front of him was such a treasury. Looking at the old man and his granddaughter, he realized that he could not miss this brilliant opportunity. The old man, suffering from illness, whispered that they should leave, Even if he did not have literary works that carried high ideas, he could still live another 50 years, and the Fusang clan would not collapse so easily. Ignoring the grandfather's illness, they began to leave with their granddaughter. Li Yuan shouted for the old man to wait so that he could share the scrolls with them. With a smile, the girl looked at the hero and asked if he was really serious. But the old man immediately stopped her. And he asked the guy that suppose he agreed, but what he wanted in return. Having thrown the scroll, the hero said that it would be kind of him to give him this scroll. But old man Yuan and his generation were very offended. So now he does not trust him too much. The old man's rage knew no bounds, and he did not want to put himself on his knees and beg the hero to give him this scroll. The cunning guy said that this is not necessary. He just needs to give something in return, which the old man recently mentioned was the treasure of the golden three-toed raven, Zhen, and this interested the hero. The old man recognized that the young man was shrewd and agreed, and as long as he had works of calligraphy and painting, he was ready to give away the treasure. And soon a sphere appeared in the old man's palms, sparkling with rainbow light. What he saw stunned Li Yuan. The sphere in the hands of the elderly man turned into a certain creature. At first, it was not entirely clear what this entity was like, but soon the hero realized that it was the golden three-toed raven of Zhenyang. Li Yuan asked his elder brother how many scrolls they needed, to which he replied that they only needed one. Revealing his generosity, the hero even gave them 2 scrolls. The surprised girl did not understand why he gave them 2 scrolls instead of 1. The upset old man said that in this case, the golden three-fingered raven of Zhenyang now belongs to him. Although his heart was heavy at this, he knew that this was the cheapest price for what he offered. Hongli added that this young man had better bribe the golden three-toed raven Zhenyang. Otherwise, he should not expect help. At that same moment, the old man began to take out his first scroll. He gladly opened one of them, as he wanted to quickly take a look at its contents. What he saw amazed him, bringing incredible satisfaction. He was about to leave, knowing that whatever condition this old man was in, he wouldn't bother him anymore. Shay Chiang looked at Li Yuan thoughtfully and asked if he could understand the work of calligraphy and painting that he had written. And the hero believed that it was the incomprehensible power of body and soul united together. Mr. Xie will never forget young Master Li's generosity. After a moment, the hero realized that all this had been planned. Shay Chiang also added that he will not forget about Yuan Kai. And if the young master wants to cultivate the Zhenyang golden three-toed crow, then he will have to find a cool place. Li at this time was thinking that this NPC turned out to be a stingy and vindictive person who does not worry about the lives of others, although he used to be more merciful. Suddenly, the gentleman handed the hero notes that indicated the location where most of the artifacts were located, as well as instructions for cultivating them. As soon as the notes fell into Li Yuan's hands, he immediately began to study them. Mr. Xie also wanted to say that the young master is quite complex, and it is not just because of his letters that he studied. All this happened because he did not feel hostility when looking at the hero's expression. Xie originally planned to let the young master choose what to do with the scrolls, and if he gave the scroll after Yuan Kai's funeral, then the man was going to give him the favor of the Fusang Sea, and if the young master gave it to death, then he was going to give the golden three-fingered raven to Zhenyang. Thus, he did not think that the young master would think of exchanging first, and the young master's strength increases, and in the end, they will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Examining the golden three-toed raven, the hero came to the conclusion that he was being exaggerated too much, and he in no way doubted his choice. This item also served as a good hand warmer for him. If the hero really had anger and resentment towards Yuan Kai, then he would never have made such a decision, and there was not an ounce of greed or envy in him, and he was an honest person. And this was a surprise to him, she said. A little worried, the guy realized that this benefit was truly favorable. The man also added that the young gentleman is careful and attentive. Also, the young master just drinks wine and doesn't worry about little things. This irritated Li Yuan because he did not consider himself special, and he felt that when he drank wine, he became serious and rude, and a man could have told him that. The wise man added that the young master is truly amazing. Suddenly, the guy stood up because he remembered that he had left his clothes to dry outside, and he thought it was going to rain today, so he needed to pick up his clothes as soon as possible. And after thanking Xie for everything, he was about to leave. Xie Chang immediately wanted to address the hero after this statement, but he started to run away and shouted that he was leaving. This confused the man a little, but he controlled himself, and he continued to write sacred letters. After all, time, fate, and luck are what he will always need. Events continued at Chai Manor U. Arriving at the estate, the hero thought that he already had the scrolls of experience, and now also the golden raven, and this was real luck and happiness. Suddenly, he remembered something. He almost forgot about those two girls. He sighed heavily, and he thought that only God could help keep him alive, because they would surely try to kill him. The relationship scale was already full, and he exclaimed enthusiastically that he had nothing to fear. Walking through the house, Li opened the door leading to the backyard. There he saw a girl and thought that she could become another beauty in this game. Despite the events that took place in the Qi Manor U, she remained true to her task by completing a secret mission from the demon cult. Ning Shangrong would eventually become the head of Shuyue. However, she suddenly turned to Jun Xuanyu with tears in his eyes. She wanted to know where Jun was Swan all these 3 years and what happened to his cultivation level. But she couldn't tell him the whole truth because he helped her see the beauty of the world and let it go, and now she was free. But Li Yuan was moving away from her. And this time, she begged him to let her help him return to Shuyue so that they could be together as a beautiful couple. Holding him tightly, she wanted to find a way to restore his abilities, even if it took a while, and she was willing to give anything for their wounds to heal. They had to stay together. The yearning lady was ready to give him everything. She only wanted them to be together. Li Yuan was embarrassed by her words, and his face turned pale pink. Ning Shangrong was ready to give him her mind or body. Hearing this, Li felt tempted, but did not want to give in to it. He was just a 19-year-old teenager. He quietly said that he could not do this. The girl hugged him even tighter and wanted to share his burden, but the guy shouted that she didn't understand. But soon, out of curiosity, he still asked what she knew. At the worst possible moment, Sheen came and greeted them enthusiastically. Unfortunately, she soon saw what was happening between Li Yuan and Ning Shangrong. The plate of food immediately fell out of her hands from shock. The guy was shocked and didn't know what to say, so he tried to justify his actions. During this time, Ning reflected that although he claimed to be her teacher, their relationship was not like a traditional teacher-student relationship. At a loss, the hero did not completely understand how to explain all this to him. Xian began to cry and wanted to listen to an explanation from her brother, Jun Xuanya. The girl continued to look at the guy with sadness, and he asked her to listen to him carefully, assuring that his attitude towards her would not change. And the girl believed in this and believed that the guy would never deceive her. And she expressed her sadness, although in small ways. The upset guy asked the girl if she saw what happened between him and Rongrong in the hall, and Xian knew that she had done wrong, but her goal was only to bring snacks. Suddenly indignant, Ning Shangrong asked the little girl if she liked Li Yuan. The indignant girl screamed that she didn't like him at all. Ning Shangrong smiled and admitted that, unfortunately, she herself liked her teacher. The little lady was confused and didn't understand how she related to this situation. In this regard, the girl asked to be called Mother Mentor. Xian, very angry, And, continuing to cry, she cried out that she and brother Junxuan is not even married, and therefore she should not be called mother teacher. Cunning Ning pointed out to the little girl that she herself was making one mistake. Since Junxuan is just her teacher and she calls him brother, she should respectfully address him as a respected teacher. Xian, trembling with shame, whispered Jun's name Xuan. Bowing her head, she still called him her esteemed teacher. But soon she became hysterical and ran away, sobbing heavily. This situation also greatly upset the guy himself, and it was difficult for him to see the girl crying. Ning, pointing her finger at the guy's head, asked him how many girls he was able to seduce over these 3 years. She asked this question because a month ago a guest had brought him here wounded, and now he occupied a special place in the heart of this young lady, and she considered him unreliable. The girl watched as he continued to speak, embarrassed as each month passed. Furiously, she continued to watch her lover, and soon, calling him vile, she grabbed his neck with her teeth and bit him. This was her punishment. Suddenly, she created a magic field and tried to find out what happened to Yue Longzhang. It was only when the hero fought him that he noticed the marks of the demon clan on his body. That's when Yue Longzhang attacked him, and his character changed a little, but it was unnoticeable to most people. Ning knew that Yue Longzhang was unlucky because his father, old man Rick Wuzhong, had been their friend for a long time, and she didn't expect him to join the demon clan. Li Yuan noted that this was due to her lack of knowledge about Yue Longzhang, while he had been collecting information about the demon clan all these years. Then the girl concluded that because of this he was injured. The guy confirmed this, but fortunately he was found and cured in time. The trusting girl immediately took his hand. From that moment on, she promised Li Yuan that she would always be by his side, and no one would dare to harm him anymore. Thanking Rongrong, he promised to become even stronger. In ignorance, the girl tried to figure out how she could help Yue Longzhang if he dies. Not only Yue Longzhang was associated with the demon clan, but both Ma Shu and the hero needed to get rid of him as quickly as possible. It was also necessary to get rid of the suspects, in particular Ma Shu, who accused Yue Longzhang is in cahoots with the demon clan to make Shu Yue more vigilant towards the demon clan. In this situation, Ning wanted to urgently notify her father and ask him to secretly investigate this incident. The girl should have been vigilant, since the demon clan had already infiltrated Shui Yue, Li Yuan exclaimed. As the lady was leaving, she heard these words, and immediately she returned to the guy. She then kissed him on the cheek, expressing her gratitude for his concern. Sometime later, the hero stood near the house and recalled the situation with the kiss. He could not think about the danger, because only recently he came to his senses and entrusted his sister with a task, despite the attempt to kill him. So much happened in 3 days, including the fight with Yue Longzhang. But this was just the beginning. He had many more plans, and he couldn't just fall in love and start a harem. However, when he thought about it, it seemed that it was impossible. As he lay down on the bed, he realized that his skills still needed improvement, and he needed to practice more. Taking advantage of the early morning, the hero collected many items in the storage room. There were 5 bottles of elixir, 2 bottles of healing potion, and 2 for strengthening the spirit, as well as an elixir for breaking the soul foundation, several medicines and materials, including a peony healing potion and azure powder. Suddenly, he discovered clear moon jade in the vault. It was one of the 4 elements for cultivating the Zhengyang golden three-toed crow, and for the hero, it was an unexpected find, especially since it was all so easy to obtain and also free. He also found that his sword and broadsword skill had improved, which was a reward for defeating boss Yue Longzhang. With the help of his luck, Li discovered an amazing sword in his inventory. It was unexpected that he discovered the purple Feishing sword, and he felt like some kind of emperor, and he no longer had to worry about his weapon. Feishing's sword was more than enough to maintain his qi. The sword was so light that he almost forgot that he was primarily an archer. Slayer Jun was adept at controlling 6-digit NPCs that ranked high in combat power and was capable of subduing high-level giants. The reason he used the sword as a weapon was because it was of epic rank. The sword was accompanied by instructions for its use, and one had to hold the sword by the hilt, like holding a bow, and the sound of the sword served instead of arrows, and the sound of the iron pierced the left or right ear, and then the brain, causing a simple itch, disturbing the enemy, and then madness, and finally destroyed the brain. The sword was similar to a bow, so it should not have been difficult for the hero to use it. Thinking about it this way, this artifact was probably still in the Tangbao Pavilion as an ordinary sword. It was still a long way to the dungeon, so he should go after this sword, and then he would have enough power to increase his chi level. Li Yuan continued to look at what else he had in his storage. With joy and delight, he discovered that he had 300 spirit stones in his inventory. The game's currency included 4 types: copper coins, silver, gold, and spirit stones. And copper coins and silver can be obtained as rewards for completing missions, and gold can be mined from nitrogen or exchanged for copper coins and silver. Exchange ratio: 1,000 copper coins equaled 100 silver coins equaled 1 gold coin. This was done to make poor players feel lucky. Spiritual stones were higher level and mined in specific mines and could not be exchanged for other in-game currency, so players had to develop their level and chi. 300 spiritual stones could be used to level up in a month, and these were probably Yue's savings longjang, which he simply did not have time to use. Laughing, he realized that in the end he was in the black. And I felt as comfortable as possible while practicing and improving my skills. He then focused on cultivating the first application of the 5 spiritual elements. After that, he continued to cultivate his abilities. A magical aura hovered around the hero, with the help of which he improved his abilities. After the night passed, the next day arrived, and the chi was pumped up to the 4th level. Jumping out of bed, the hero immediately began to prepare to leave. He was glad that he had successfully increased the power of the air in the evening. The chi level had doubled, thanks to the double experience scroll. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door and said that Mr. Xuan, the owner, wanted to see him in the lobby. From Li Yuan's voice, he immediately knew that it was the outcast Gu, and he didn't understand what he wanted. All this time he was idle on the estate, but now the owner can provide him with work. And despite what is happening with the students of Shangyang, he still endures stoically. When there was no news of Fu Huan, she would train in martial arts in the courtyard and wait for the player to provide daily tasks. And compared to cultivators, she found it difficult to learn, as success depended mainly on ability and chi level. But once she started martial arts training, she did not give it up. And the saddest thing is that Fu Huan had a chance to achieve immortality, but she gave it up to help her family. After meeting with the outcast Gu, Li Yuan intends to get a bottle of that delicious wine. And after all, like 10th level treasures, wine can improve physical strength and expand the boundaries of strength. The owner of the estate invited Mr. Jun Xuanya take a seat next to him. The hero obediently sat down next to the man. He then asked everyone present to leave. The old man was condescending towards Xiyin, which made her arrogant, and now she hopes for more attention from Mr. Jun Xuanya. Hearing this, the hero was indignant, expecting that he would be offered 1,000,000 yuan if only he would leave his daughter alone, and yet the guy would agree to his offer. But Li Yuan began to defend Xiyin, claiming that she was defending herself and that she was a smart and prudent girl. The man replied that if something happened at the Chiyu estate, he hoped that Mr. Jun would take Xiyin with him. But the guy did not immediately understand what Gu meant, Zhuangzhou. The worried guy asked Gu Zhuangzhou, does he want Mr. Jun Xuan married his daughter? Trying to find an excuse, the hero said that Shu Yuo had already tried to stop Chiyu's wedding twice, and he needed Xiyin, who was his student, and he would not allow her to get hurt, and was against the marriage. The old man exclaimed again in surprise, asking if this was really the only reason. Bowing down, Master Gu said that young Master Xuan looked down on the old man, and if the old man did not know what his daughter was thinking, he could not call himself a father. The worried guy turned to Gu Zhuangzhou, is willing to provide assistance if necessary, but he is too afraid of what Shu Yue wants, and although he can turn to powerful schools for help, he will not dare to do so. Looking into the guy's eyes, he asked if Mr. Jun knew Xuan why Gu Zhuangzhou is so afraid. The hero guessed that this was due to dark magic. The old man exclaimed in surprise again, because he clearly did not expect the hero to know about this, and Gu was rejected like an old fox. Li Yuan decided to be frank and revealed that he was here not only to protect Xiyin, but also to deal with the demon clan. Although he could easily deal with them, but because of little Xiyin, he couldn't just leave, and also because of the attractive Rongrong. With a heavy sigh, the old man admitted that he could not persuade the young master, although he really, really wanted this marriage, and he believes that it is not worth asking him about it again. The demon clan has already sent its agents to Shuyue, and they will soon reach Chiyue, and the hero has no choice but to destroy them, and he is ready to help Chiyue Manor, and at the same time does not want to become Shuyue's enemy. The shocked man made a bold assumption that Yue Longzhang was on the side of the demon clan. The slightly excited hero confirmed that this was indeed the case. The old man also said that Ma Shu was also related to the demon clan, and the guy was amazed that the man figured this out on his own. It turns out Yue Longzhang is the envoy of the demon clan, and Ma Shu is too prominent, so this could be expected, but Yue Longzhang was not particularly smart and did not stand out, which gave the man reason to think. Listening to this, the guy was amazed at the intelligence of these old people. Also, the hero had little information about the demon clan, and without it, they would not be able to catch them. And as the man heard, they would send high-class fighters, so the task would not be easy. The day will come when the old man will ask him to kill their leader, and it may be a selfish act, but he believes in little Xiyin, and it is Mr. Jun. He is ready to entrust her life to Xuan. Realizing this, the hero also understood that in this case, the rejected Gu would be more ruthless and cruel, and he asked to take only Gu Xiyin. This must be so that no one from the Gu family stays at the manor to keep Xuanyu's secret treasure. After all, Xuanyu needs someone from the Gu family to open the secret treasure, and yet it is unknown why the demon clan decided to send high-class warriors here. Thinking about this in horror, the guy realized that this was not the case in the original plot. He followed a new plot, and this time he had absolutely no idea what awaited him. And all these changes were too spontaneous, and he simply followed the initiative of others. But it didn't matter, and even when the celestial Pihuan Lu went down to Lao Tzu, who was not afraid of her. And Li Yuan, a great god-level player, had been to all the places in the province, and for him it was a routine thing, and he didn't need to worry about it. First, the guy decided to go to Hua for the monkey warrior, and perhaps take something else with him. Sometime later, while surveying the area, Li remembered that Mount Hua was located to the west of the city of Shang. A moment later, he noticed a group of monkeys, and I saw mountains in front of me, and an old pine tree. With delight, he realized that he had found this place. Suddenly, a creature flashed in front of the hero, emitting a squeaking sound. But Li Yuan was already ready to fight and took out his Xunfeng sword for self-defense. It seemed to him that it was some kind of spiritualized monkey. A moment later, she was already sitting on a branch, although earlier she had been next to the hero. This smart monkey was furious because Li Yuan had injured it. The hero boldly looked at the monkey sitting on the tree and decided that he could easily defeat it. He then used his 10 sides of fog and waves skill. A thick fog appeared around him, and the hero became completely invisible. And suddenly an unexpected attack followed. He hit the monkey again, and it squeaked, trying to get away. As he watched the fleeing monkey, he realized that it had actually worked. Looking around, Li Yuan noticed that there was a group of monkeys nearby. In a state of daze, the guy wondered what to do next. Running away from them in fear, he shouted for them to spare him. Luckily, he was able to escape, and in the game, if you had already started a fight with a wild beast, there was nowhere to run, and of course, after death, you could return to the save location. But Li couldn't just leave the wine here. Fearing the monkeys, he also thought that he could not simply get lost in these mountains. Ultimately, if he died in the mountains after getting lost, it would be a joke. A strange discovery came into his sight, and a stone tablet with the inscription, "So Waterfall." Perhaps this particular waterfall was connected to the sealed dragon beneath it. But it could also be that it was just a dark force. If you don't go into the tiger's lair, you won't catch him, the hero thought, and he decided to try and see what happens next. Deciding that he would just pop in and leave without hurting anything, the guy used his magical abilities to avoid the curse. A moment later, he was already plunging into the waterfall at great speed. It seemed that the dragon Armber, so should be here, but he did not see the chain, although they say that the dragon itself must be huge like its chain. The runes on the tablet looked familiar. He had seen them somewhere before. And suddenly, it occurred to him that this was the post where they examined these runes. But later, it became a crooked copy of the manual, and he remembered what was written there. This dungeon was not for beginners of the 20th level. It was the 50th level, intermediate for transformation into a god, and without a team to clear it, there was nothing to do here. Realizing that he could not cope with this dungeon alone, he decided to return to the battle with the monkeys. But suddenly a red spot appeared near him. It was the liquid flowing from the monkeys, the first element that could destroy the chain. With apprehension, Li Yuan realized that this could lead to problems and began to worry even more. He also heard something terrifying. The giant dragon was approaching him. He was clearly annoyed and was locked in the cold abyss. This dragon was sealed here during the Archean era, and over time the seal weakened, and the ape liquid only accelerated this process. And now the dragon is trying to get out into this world again. An angry huge dragon swam next to the guy, watching him threateningly. His eyes were red, like a demon's, and similar to the eyes of a snake. Watching the dragon, the hero realized that defeating this boss would not be easy. Suddenly, the dragon spoke, noticing that the mortal who came to him was unusual. Having examined the dragon more closely, the guy noticed that the shackles were still holding him. It turned out that his worry was in vain, since this dragon lacks the energy and fluid of monkeys. With delight, Li Yuan told the dragon that he knew he was special and attractive and thanked him before saying goodbye. Watching the guy, the dragon suggested that Li came from another world, but the hero only replied that he grew up and was born here. The formidable dragon asked whether the hero wanted to gain power, but the worried guy understood that the dragon wanted to free himself, and he knew that he was faced with a choice. If he agreed, he would die. This dragon knew how to control people and their emotions. He loved to manipulate feelings, love, hatred, family ties, and the 6 passions, and he enjoyed it like a blind man craves light, because every time he cannot get what he wants. The dragon shouted after him that Li Yuan would return, because this was the meaning of his life. But the unperturbed guy got out of the water and swore that he would definitely save his sister. When Li was getting out of the water, he accidentally cut himself, and this was very unusual for him, so he was annoyed. The cruel dragon affected his mind, which showed how difficult it was to fight level 50 bosses. Finally, he decided that it was necessary to deal with the monkeys first, because the monkey's wine was a good reward. But a particle of his internal fluid remained on the stone. And so she flowed over the stone and fell into the water, slowly swimming towards the dragon. Evening came, and events continued to unfold in the Chiyu estate. Falling on the bed from powerlessness, the hero thought about how strong the monkeys were. He realized that his level was too low and he needed to speed up his training. Chi again, but suddenly someone knocked on the window, calling for Brother Jun's Stan. It was Xian, who happily brought her brother a treat. Freed from worries, the hero breathed a sigh of relief, rejoicing at the girl's arrival. Suddenly, the door through which she climbed slammed shut, and by chance the girl got stuck in the window. She started crying and shaking because she couldn't get out. Li Yuan walked up to little Xian and advised her to enter through the door as the safest way. But then the girl made the argument that her brother Jun Xuan also sometimes enters her room this way. The stunned guy at first didn't know what to say to the cunning girl, but then he still asked what she was doing here in the middle of the night. As it turned out, Xian learned how to cook red bean rice cookies today and decided to cook them for the hero. The joyful guy looked at the girl in love and realized that he would have to accept her gift. The hero put the cookies aside, and the girl wanted to tell him more about this dessert. A little embarrassed, the girl said that she learned how to make these red bean cookies from a chef, and they taste better when served warm. Suddenly, the hero took her with both hands and brought her closer to him. Snuggling close to the girl, he said that if Xian made these cookies herself, the taste would remain the same. Not knowing what the characters were thinking, he was afraid that something was wrong and he wouldn't get rewarded for his efforts, so he chose a strategy that rewarded him for his work. Now new dazzling feelings open up before him, and he no longer has anything to fear. The girl in love also asked if her father was looking for Brother Jun Xuanya. Hearing this, the guy realized that it was better to keep everything a secret so as not to scare her. He said that his father had already found him, and Master Gu Zhuangzhu already knows about them and even supports their endeavors. Clinging tightly to the guy, the girl dreamed that they would soon get married. Realizing how serious it was, he was amazed. However, he soon laughed, frightened by this little girl's passion for marriage. He asked the girl to wait a little, since they first needed to deal with the bad guys in Shuo, and the girl happily exclaimed in admiration, knowing that her brother Junchuan is the best. Yawning, the girl rejoiced at her upcoming marriage and was terribly sleepy. After touching Li Yuan, she fell asleep. She probably stayed up until midnight before sneaking past the guards to him. Li initially planned to return her to her room by climbing out the window. He silently opened the door to her room like a real ninja. Carefully, he placed the girl on the bed so she could sleep in her own bed. Having mercy, she saw that her brother Jun Xuan was nearby. Taking her hand, the guy told her to go to bed, and he would be there until she fell asleep. The embarrassed sweet girl covered herself with a blanket and watched Li. Sitting next to the girl, the hero wondered if she wanted to engage in cultivation to achieve immortality. He had pretended to be her teacher before, but not really because of that. Xian had cultivator roots, and he hoped that she would join him on this path of immortality. If she was interested, he was willing to teach her fire techniques, but warned her that the path would be difficult and she would have many regrets. At this time, it was pouring rain in Shuyo as events unfolded. A girl and a man were watching the scenery from the balcony. The girl was a celestial Pihuan Lu. Sticking out her tongue, she whispered the name Jun Xuan. At this time, Xian fell asleep, and the hero crawled out of her room. Suddenly, he stopped and looked around because he caught something in his ear. To his surprise, he found Fu Huan sitting on the roof. The girl watched the heavens intently. It was already late, and Li Yuan didn't quite understand why she was here. Suddenly, he felt that their relationship had changed, but he could not understand how it happened. Fu Huan exclaimed the name, Jun Xuanya, seemed to not expect to see him here. Trying to remain calm, she asked what he was doing there. Grinning, the hero realized that this was another chance to improve his relationship with the girl. A moment later, he had already jumped onto Fu Huan's roof. Yi said that he accompanied Xian to her room and then returned back. Fu wanted to know why he left Xian's bedroom so late, since he was her teacher, but he answered casually, as if he was indifferent to Xian. Meanwhile, Li Yuan asked if Fu Wan was homesick, and she replied that she really was. She always worries about the health of her parents and thinks how much harvest they managed to harvest this year. And perhaps they are already getting old, like ordinary people. Chai Manor, could you help them? But it turned out that Fu Huan's parents rejected him. Her parents abandoned her because of her passion for martial arts and fame among people, and because of this, she abandoned her surname and called herself Fu Huan. And some time ago, she gave birth to a boy, and she is confident that he will achieve high status in the future. Status. So far, her parents are proud and happy of her brother's achievements, and she is happy with them too. Immediately after the story, Fu Huan wanted to know the hero's story, since he rarely shared information about himself, and he replied that he was an ordinary person. He has no special skills and no martial arts skills, but he is good at deceiving the locals, and now they believe everything he says. He only said this because he sees Fu Huan as his friend. Immediately after this, he admitted that where he came from, the earth was round. The light of the moon is just a reflection of the light of the sun, and all the people here are completely ordinary. But even here, there are many important things. Events unfolded the next day. At this time, Shuizhui continued his practice of cultivating his own skills. Suddenly, Li Yuan appeared in front of him and asked him if he had thought about why this marriage was forced on him. The very frightened guy really didn't know why this happened. The hero explained to him that this was the work of a demonic cult, not Shuyuo, and he was being used as a simple tool. He compared it to a demonic tool, like a doll that is thrown away after use, and in a few days the demonic cult will come for him, trying to attract him to themselves by force. But these techniques are essentially like the mother of poisonous insects, and he will become her ward. She will command him and control him, and then, when he becomes useless, she will simply discard him. Shuizhui was horrified and asked what he should do to avoid this doll's fate. The hero came to the conclusion that he needed power, and instead of waiting for him to forget everything, he should teach someone what he knows. Currently, he is treated as a tool and trained in various secret techniques, and even if he trains for 80 years, he will achieve nothing. However, he has abilities in the water element and the mutated lightning element. Li Yuan gave him a lightning technique book containing the secrets of the famous lightning clan, and it was perfect for his body, making his training much easier. If he can find a suitable lightning source, then after 3 days of training, he will overcome the basics. Shuizhui was delighted with this news. The effect of the training will not be long in coming. His veins will be filled with deadly lightning energy, which he can use to easily overcome any enemy. But his body will receive a backlash, and if he deals 1,000 damage, 800 damage will be returned to him, so he should be careful. Shuizhui gratefully accepted the book on lightning techniques and was happy with his new acquisition. At the moment, he has nothing to thank him, but when he masters these techniques, he will fight the demonic cult and protect people to repay his kindness. And Li Yuan was touched and advised him to start training at Juyuan Mountain, in a southwestern direction, and these few days were his only chance to change his life. Shuizhui knew that Juyuan Mountain was quite dangerous, but he understood that he himself needed to change his destiny and promised to listen to the hero's advice. Confused, the guy thought a little about changing his fate, but he soon exclaimed that he would not let his senior partner down. Smiling, the hero thought that there was a lightning lake on Jiyuan Mountain. Shuizhui would best master lightning techniques by absorbing the energy of this lake. He hoped that when lightning struck him, he would learn the basics of this technique. Li Yuan was most worried about the top of the demonic cult, but he also knew that he had done all he could. The rest depended on the will of God. There was another person who was still growing and developing. The only heir to the Chai Manor Yu, illegitimate son of Gu's eldest son Fei Dao, named Gu Cheng. This is a secret part of the main story that will reach its conclusion when the beginner story ends and the Chi Manor burns. You and only a few of the Gu family will survive, and Xuanwu's secret will be buried forever. This will continue until Guchang becomes lights. Gucang will not appear again, and after passing his own tests, he will appear with the secret of Xuanwu in the hands. Li Yuan knew that they did not allow him to improve his situation. Otherwise, he would have survived to the last drop. And in the end, Gucang became the main boss in this version of the game. Gucang was like a demon and intended to turn all the people around the world into dust. Thinking about this, the hero guessed that now Gucang likely encountered a wounded 8-armed demon. Recognizing this, the hero realized that this would be a dangerous adventure, but it was worth trying. After some time, events continued in the Alley of Silver Bottles. Walking through the streets, Junxuan thought that probably Gu Fei Dao has not yet taken Gu Chang to his place, and this guy is probably still living with his mother. Suddenly, he noticed a girl walking down the street. With horror, he realized who it was. A red-haired girl named Pi Huan Luo. The lady turned out to be a level 78 lady from a demonic cult, with the power that allows her to notice when people are looking at her. They were on the street, but no one paid attention to the lady, and apparently she was using invisibility. Since no one was paying attention to her, she must have noticed that Li Yuan's gaze was fixed on her. It was a matter of survival for our hero, and so he activated his mirror jade. He then used the secret illusory bubble technique. As a result, he completely changed his appearance and appearance. Watching the demoness, he realized that this was not enough. The hero decided to study the character profiles in the system. There he discovered a character named Pi Huan Luo, known as a Rakshasa witch with the level of an immortal. After instructing the system to take this character, he hurried to take possession of such a powerful being. He was in a hurry to take possession of such a powerful character. Jun level, Suanya was hidden, and his appearance was also completely changed, with the chance of exposure being close to 0. The transformation was successful, and he planned to find an excuse and leave quickly. With confidence, he began to approach the girl. As he approached, he introduced himself by the name Zhang Feng and the nickname Jade-Faced Meng Chang. The lady simply smirked as she watched him closely. He annoyedly asked why she was silent, as if she was looking down on him, claiming that he had many ways to get rid of her. He then asked if she had heard of the Moonwater clan, saying that even god-level clans could not compare to his clan. Pai Huanluo answered with a smile and asked if it was true. Li Yuan was nervous seeing the girl's strange reaction. The mysterious lady continued to closely watch the hero without taking her eyes off him. At this moment, the hero felt in incredible danger. He understood that the illusory bubbles and hidden level of his soul could deceive anyone, even the naive. The proud guy shouted heatedly, claiming that even the big clans were afraid of him and asking if she wanted to get to know him better. Even servants of a demonic cult would not want to waste their time on such behavior. When the girl started to leave, he threatened to send his people after her and said that he had many friends. As soon as she left, he began to run away. This moment brought a smile to the lady's face, for she would never have thought that he himself would approach her. There was an invisible thread on her finger, and she told the worm to tie his knot. Immediately after this, she wanted to know how far Li Yuan could escape from her. The hero reached the castle wall and was breathing heavily after running fast. Fear filled him, and he wondered if she was a high-ranking figure in a demonic cult. This meant that he would have to face her. Realizing that she was a famous Rakshasa witch named Pi Huan Luo, he realized that meeting her could be fatal. But he needed to remain calm, and the guy thought about the possibility of using a time machine. He soon realized with horror that such technology did not yet exist. If she was heading to Qi Village U, it was not clear why she appeared in this city, since it was not at all along her path. Suddenly, the thought occurred to him that perhaps this was connected with the eight-armed demon. The only thing that connected the demonic cult to this place was an eight-armed monster, and this may have been one of the hidden plot threads in which the cult sent scouts to an unknown location that the players did not know about. Even if this person from the demonic cult starts looking for a hero, he will be able to deceive her again. However, he knew that the time had come to leave dangerous matters behind him, and that was too arrogant of him, and now he needed to get back to finding Gu Chang. Shortly after this came the official explanation that demons are creatures of pure consciousness. They need a body to survive outside the realm of demons, and humans are ideal vessels for them. Monsters can also be vessels, but most of them have very low compatibility with demons, so over time they turn into puddles. When Luo Yuan first started playing, nothing related to demons existed, and the demon cult card had not been released, so there was little information about him, and the players themselves knew little about demons. At least one thing is known. The entire upper central world is divided into 3 planes, and the first surface is the floating city of the heavenly kingdom. The second is the mainland of the human kingdom, and under the dark crevices is the third surface of the demon kingdom. The lower surface is so hot that everything is covered in lava, and the demons are probably in a gaseous state. Li Yuan is obliged to cooperate with Gu Chang and meet the old man who wants to destroy the demons in order to receive godhood training from him. Looking at the jade disc, the hero remembered Pi Huan Luo, and he swore that he would deal with this witch when he finished his training. The hero decisively took action to fulfill his plan. First of all, he went to conduct training. Soon he managed to find the place where he was going. While on a tree branch, he watched the girl who was entering the house. It was Madame Wang. The girl used to be a slave, but now she has regained her freedom and earns a living by doing laundry. In the game's plot, Madame Wang is supposed to die, but there is no explanation for her death in the game, and Li may try to save her. Soon the guy also saw Ding Liu. He was talking to Madame Wang, and they were both from Heavenly Prefecture. Heavenly Prefecture is a special clan made up of people from the coast of the East China Sea on the Middle Island. These people train on their own and always succeed in it, no matter where they are. Many players like to join this clan. Firstly, to earn a little and quickly, and secondly, in many workshops, there are special people from whom you can get magic stones of the Heavenly Clan. Smirking, the hero realized that he would have to look not only for Gu Chang, but also for that old man who could not cope with the demons in the mountains. The old man said that he had a chance to cure his injury, and Madame asked how he knew something about cold jade. A little nervous, the man said that someone named Liu Junchuan from Qi village, you told him about this. This guy has some connections with the young lady from the Gu family, and the divine beauty from Shuyo school listens to him. But the old man has never heard of such a person in the world of immortality cultivators, so he doesn't know where this love expert came from. Suddenly, Li Yuan appeared behind the old man and asked him if he was talking about a love expert, and if so, then here he is. Turning his attention to the man standing next to him, the old man was dumbfounded. Madame also did not know where the hero came from. The guy thought it was normal that they didn't know him. After all, he was doing the same dirty things as them. The man assumed that Li was following him, but he checked everything before coming here. Madame ordered Ding Liu to grab him and took out her blade. The experienced hero was easily able to stop the lady's attack. But the lady exclaimed that the blade of the snake blade is saturated with poison, the antidote to which simply does not exist. Even those who cultivate immortality cannot escape from it. Smiling, the guy said that he didn't need an antidote, because he is at the nascent soul stage. People who did not expect this were stunned by what they heard. Madame even dropped her dangerous sword out of shock and horror. As it turned out, with the help of his magical abilities, the hero forced the girl to drop her sword. A demonic cult has begun interfering with Chi's affairs. You and Shuayuo school, it will only get worse. And when the heavenly prefecture also begins to take part in this, then they should leave this place. If, of course, they want to save their lives. Jin something Shuanya. Suddenly, the guy just vanished right in front of them. The information they heard caused concern among the lady and the man. Meanwhile, events took place in the cave. A certain creature attacked an elderly man and a little girl and wanted to take the girl's body. The creature attacked the old man, and he sat motionless. The little girl begged to let her grandfather go so that he could stay alive. But the giant creature was not going to do this, because it only wanted to get the body of a little girl. Suddenly, a sound was heard predicting death. A wave of death surrounded the entire cave, and a powerful explosion was heard. The demon wanted to know who this brave man was who dared to stop him. But Li Yuan asked why someone who would remain on the verge of death would need to know this. He then used the hatred of the flying stars technique. Suddenly, a bow appeared out of nowhere. This amused the demon, as he thought an archer with a bow was funny. While the hero quickly grabbed the bow, and he pulled the bowstring to make a shot. With a grin, he noted that the demon could forgive him because he was not an ordinary swordsman. An attack called Northern Sirius was used. The dark demon was terrified as he watched the arrow fly towards him. While he was in pain, the old man used his magical abilities. The demon wanted to stay alive, but the old man ordered him to leave. Soon the demon was no longer visible, he simply disappeared. Fortunately, this demon turned out to be weak. Otherwise, his nascent soul stage would not have helped him. But as we know, there are no easy ways, and he needs to train. He cannot always rely on the characteristics of NPCs. An unknown old man, sitting in the lotus position, thanked the hero for his help. The granddaughter also immediately ran up to her grandfather to make sure that everything was okay with him. This old man turned out to be Ding Huan, the former head teacher of the Jade Void clan, and he revealed that 700 years ago, he was the master of the Jade Void, and now he is just an old sorcerer whose efforts would have been in vain without Li Yuan's help. The strange, 8-armed demon had settled in Ding Huang, so he had to stay in this dark cave to keep the demon inside him. Ding Huan had periods of grief where several times he was unable to successfully deal with the obstacles caused by the inner demon, and his life gradually became meaningless, and it was during this time that he met Gu Chang. According to the plot, Ding Huan decided to transfer his knowledge to Gu Chang and chose the 8-armed demon as his next vessel. Li Yuan came to 9-year-old Gu Chang, who was the youngest main boss in the game. Gu Chang was surprised that they were looking for him, and Li Yuan came because he met his mother at the foot of the mountain, and they had something important to discuss. Li Yuan wanted to talk to Gu Chang about his family. The angry kid asked Li Yuan if he liked his mother. This greatly surprised Li Yuan, and he watched the baby closely. However, he soon smiled and replied that he did not like his mother, and this was due to the Qi Manor Yu, and the baby did not want to return there, but preferred to stay with his mother. Li Yuan thought for a moment, realizing that Gu Chang was not as cute as he seemed, and he realized this when the boy mentioned the Qi Manor Yu. Ding Huang heard from Gu Chang that Qi Manor Yu wants to take him as his heir, and he didn't know how Li Yuan was involved in this. In a nutshell, the kid could call Li Yuan uncle. Gu Shiyin was his aunt, so it was no surprise that he considered Li Yuan an uncle, but the kid still didn't want to return to Qiyu. Huan sadly noted that he wanted Gu Chang to join the legendary clan, but they believed that he was already dead, and if he joined, he would be drawn into a power struggle. This was true, because the legendary clan had the most brutal internal conflicts, and despite the status of the highest clan, there were always groups ready to fight each other. Having learned who Li Yuan really was, Ding Huan asked him to tell about the Black Fog, which, in his opinion, represented the 8-armed demon, the object of worship of the demonic cult. This made Ding Huan smile. The hero was truly insightful. The eight-armed demon tormented Ding Huan for 700 years but was never able to defeat him. Gu Chang entered the cave, whom Ding Huan wanted to make his heir, but the demon wanted to replace his master in order to get into the human world. If the hero had not intervened, the demon would have already infected Gu Chang's body, and it looks like Li Yuan arrived on time and was happy to help suppress the demon. The good-natured old man thanked the hero, noting that it was a wonderful arrow, and Li Yuan thought that the old man thought too highly of him, but perhaps this was just a habit to prevent him from becoming overconfident. The hero said that these were ordinary techniques, and he had nothing to be proud of, and little Gu Chang, who was standing behind, shouted that he was a liar. The slightly embarrassed hero thought that this boy clearly lacked training. It turned out that the old man had no choice. He should have made Gu Chang his successor, but his young age could lead him astray if he didn't get the attention he deserved. Even though the man had not interacted with people for over 100 years, he still believed in his character assessment skills, and he realized that Li Yuan was a good person and had exceptional talent, having reached the nascent soul stage at such a young age. A joyful Li Yuan thanked the old man for his kind words. The old man was planning to pass on his knowledge to him and hoped that Li Yuan would accept Gu Chang as a disciple and pass on his knowledge to him when the time came. Embarrassed, Li wanted to tell the old man that this was rather reckless, but he realized that the praise was deserved, and yet the rule that the older the wiser had a basis. The wise old man asked Gu Chang to greet his new teacher. From that day on, a baby named Gu Chang became a student of the wise and brave Li Yuan. Sometime later, events unfolded in the Alley of Silver Bottles. Li Yuan ordered the baby to go inside on his own. He also warned him not to say too much about Li Yuan. The kid went to the fortress and told his mother that he had returned. Madame was happy and offered the boy water. Madame Wang was hot-tempered before, but now she has changed a lot, and it seems that Gu Chang is very important to her. A little later, events unfolded in the Qi Estate Yu. As soon as the hero entered, he immediately met Rongrong. The girl had just contacted Shu Yue, where a mess was going on. Many were furious upon hearing of Yue's death. Longzhang. Yue's father, Longzhang, flew into a rage, and those who suspected Yue Longzhang, rumors began to spread about his demonicity, and Ma Shu also added fuel to the fire. Between Yue's father, a fight broke out between Longzhang and Ma Shu. Instead of avenging his son, who was killed, Ma Shu began to fight for his position in the clan. Just a few days ago, discussions began about who was responsible for Yue's death, Longzhang. After hearing this story, Li Yuan realized that people truly love to fight. The girl pointed out that their school, Shuyue, compared to the large clans of the Middle Island, is a small fish in a big pond, where talents are limited among both students and elders. The art of cultivating immortality is a long journey that causes many people to forget their true goals and strive for such insignificant things as status and power. In an attempt to pay a compliment, the hero noted that they shared the same broad vision of the world. However, Lady could not understand what it meant not to strive for power and status if she gave in to other feelings. Hearing this remark, the guy felt discomfort and blushed. The sweet girl gently took both his hands. The lady's heart was sure that he was the one she had been looking for all her life, and she called him her husband. Ning was crazy in love and wanted to start a family with the hero and be with him for the rest of her life. This made the young man noticeably nervous. The lady added that he need not worry because she would protect him. She had already told her father that she would not marry anyone other than Li Yuan or become a nun in the Jade Void clan. But the hero knew that she could not go there, since there might be another mysterious lady there who was looking for him. The guy felt guilty, but he knew that everything would be fine. Smiling, he hugged the girl by the shoulders and asked her not to joke like that. Because if she becomes a nun, he will find a way to get there, and will force Ning to break their rules. Enchanted by the master's love, the lady was completely captivated. Suddenly, she pinched the hero's hand with force. Since he was talking nonsense as usual, they were now even. Li Yuan became interested in what Father Ning said, as he loved this girl very much and kept trying to convince her. However, the girl in love wanted the guy to allow her to return the hero and show it to her father. The delighted hero said that then he gladly gave her as his wife. However, he also thought that Gu was here Xian, and they could not get married without danger. Seeing Li's reaction, the girl immediately thought that he was still thinking about that girl. She didn't really care. Since she had been searching for him for 3 years, her heart was simply burning with worry that he didn't want to see her anymore. And the lady couldn't even imagine what she would do if she didn't see Li Yuan again. As she hugged the guy, she knew that she had now finally found him, and that was enough for her. He was so worried about that girl, and the lady couldn't let him be left without protection. And as for Father and Yue Zhong, the hero no longer has to worry, because this time she would definitely protect him and no one would dare to harm him. The embarrassed guy asked if it was true. The girl, deeply in love, simply hugged him back. While hugging her, the protagonist was debating whether to tell the girl that he was at the nascent soul stage and not worth worrying about. In just a few days, he had advanced from the basic stage to the nascent soul stage, and it was incomprehensible. But perhaps it was better to leave things as they were for now. The lady, madly in love, planned to take the guy to Shuyuo tomorrow. And tonight she was going to spend time with him. Turning around, she also looked at him persistently. The worried guy immediately understood what this could mean. A few hours later, it was deep night. Li Yuan continued to diligently develop his abilities while meditating on his bed. Now that the core techniques of the Jade Void Taoism clan were ingrained in his mind, he could train them at any time. However, in order to fully master the nuances of special techniques, he should have studied with Ding Huan. After all, this is not only the teachings of the Jade Void clan, but also the essence of Ding Huan's whole life, because experience is the most valuable thing in this world. Suddenly, Ning appeared in the reflection of the mirror. The excited guy immediately started drinking the drink that was on his table. He was truly restless before Ning arrived. Shangrong's eyes, he always looked like a slightly reckless and confident guy, and he didn't want to change that impression. After a while, the hero was already standing at the door of Ning Shangrong's house and was ready to enter. He understood that if he started making excuses, he would look even more pathetic. He spent all these 19 years alone, so he shouldn't be offended if it comes to this. Gathering his will into a fist, he nevertheless decided. And a moment later, he opened the door to the waiting girl. The embarrassed lady met the hero, dressed in sleepwear. Her appearance amazed the guy, because the girl was incredibly beautiful. He watched as she waited for him shyly. After a few seconds of observation, he finally closed the door behind him. The girl slowly approached Li Yuan. Watching this, he realized that there was no point in retreating. After all, he already has other wives in the game, so if he is also afraid, then he should not start a relationship with them at all. Their relationship had reached its peak, and it was time to take the next step. Knowing this, he should not be afraid. On the contrary, he should enjoy it. He was surrounded by such a sweet girl who was madly in love, and he was obliged to respond. Suddenly, the guy resolutely hugged her waist. Ning Shangrong was shocked by the hero's courage and frightened by his actions. They were so close that they could not resist a passionate kiss. Li Yuan met her in person recently, but for her it was more than 3 years ago. The loving couple dissolved in a tender kiss. During the kiss, they wanted to move on to something more serious. Suddenly, someone knocked on Ning's door because he wanted to talk to her about something important. The frightened lovers realized that it was Xian knocking. At this time, the girl was standing at the door and saw that the light was on in the room, but perhaps she was not there. But she knew that Sister Ning must have spent the night there. Xian then decided to look for Brother Jun first. Xuanya. A moment later, a slightly worried Ning came out to Xian. Xian clearly did not expect anyone to come out to her, and was surprised to see the girl. Blushing, Ning explained that she was focused on cultivating, and that's why she didn't hear the girl knock. A little distantly, the girl replied that everything was clear and continued to carefully examine her. After all, she didn't understand why her face was so red, her clothes were wrinkled, and her breathing was uneven. The little girl thought that Ning had probably reached the responsible stage of cultivation, and her training was indeed grueling, so Xian asked if she could come in. Good-natured Ning agreed, and the girl began to enter. She came to talk about Brother Junchuan. At this time, the brother himself was hiding under the table, trying to hide from the girl. He also couldn't understand how he ended up at the nascent soul stage if he couldn't teleport. At the same time, the hero watched the feet of the guest and Ning. He suddenly realized that he couldn't just sit here at this moment. Smirking evilly, he intended to do something. Xian wanted to talk about her brother, but so that he wouldn't find out. This alarmed the girl, since her brother Junshuan was right under the table. She realized that nothing could be done now, and it was better to leave everything as it was. Ning Xiangrong suddenly said that if the girl wanted to know about their relationship, she didn't need to go through all these difficulties. She came here for him, and tomorrow she will take him to her father. This statement shocked the innocent Xian, and she remained rooted to the spot. At this time, Ning thought that if it were not for this girl, he would have long been her husband. The upset little girl began to cry and said that everything was clear. She wasn't here to express her jealousy, but just wanted to ask about Brother Jun's past. Suanya. When Ning realized this, she was overcome with a feeling of compassion. Ning Xiangrong was surprised to hear that the girl asked exactly this question. She wondered if he had dated other girls during those 3 years. Continuing to think about this in her head, the girl began to get angry. And with full force, she kicked the insolent man on the head. However, he managed to grab her leg. This confused the girl even more, and she screamed. Xian immediately asked what was happening and what was the matter. The girl remained silent and said that she was actually not sure why she screamed. Meanwhile, under the table, Li Yuan grabbed Ning's leg. It turned out that the girl said that Li suddenly appeared and she did not know who he was. She didn't know how he had reached such a high level of cultivation or how he had managed to bypass Shuyu's guards. When she went to wash herself in the pond, Li Yuan found her. First, he stole her clothes and then smiled slyly. The guy continued to hold her leg and tickled her little by little. The girl was so angry that she could not get out of the water and began to swear at him right from there. Xian, embarrassed by this, found out what her brother Jun really was like. The girl continued her story, saying that he simply stole her clothes and hid them, but did nothing more. On the contrary, they had a pleasant conversation, and he told her many interesting things. At first, she was just angry, but then it somehow went away on its own. He was like a person from another, bright world, full of bright colors. He made Ning Xiangrong feel that her life before him was monotonous and boring, and she didn't know when it started, but she looked forward to his appearance every time. But one day, he simply disappeared, as if he had disappeared into thin air. She consciously left Shuyo School, eager to see the world he so vividly described. Over the course of 3 years, she met many kind people and visited many exciting places, but Jun's trail, the Xuanya in her heart, became more and more profound. Previously, she had never seen anything other than the Shuyue School, focusing solely on training, and Xian also dreamed of traveling, but her father considered her understanding of martial arts not deep enough and her mind not calm enough, which made her vulnerable to kidnapping. Ning exclaimed, realizing that she had allowed herself to be kidnapped by one villain. Her leg was still caught in his contractions. It turned out that brother Junxuanya didn't kidnap her. In fact, he liked her. Despite her whims, he was always kind and caring for her, so she couldn't imagine him stealing her clothes. With tears in her eyes, she could not believe that a person could change so much in 3 years. At this time, Ning was thinking about what he might have experienced in these 3 years. His cultivation should also have changed significantly. At this time, Li Yuan was preparing to bite her leg. She didn't ask him, but he must have been through a lot. Immediately after these words, there was a bite on the leg. The girl screamed, not expecting this at all. Xian was alarmed, not understanding what was happening to the girl. The frightened woman instantly stood up from her chair. The little girl ran up to the woman, trying to find out what was wrong. The worried woman just looked down. As soon as Xian looked down, she saw something strange. There was a bite mark on Ning Shangrong's leg. The frightened girl screamed that there was a snake in the room. Looking under the table, she found no one. After checking the room, she noticed that the snake had disappeared. Ning confirmed that the snake had indeed escaped. Suddenly, young woman took a look up. Li Yuan sat on the roof, waving at her. He asked her to be quiet and not to disclose his presence. The girl was worried, realizing the danger the snake posed, and warned that it could be poisonous. At that time, the girl realized that he deliberately bit her to attract Xian's attention, and then disappeared. Junxuan was a master of such tricks. After checking her leg, the crying girl asked about Sister Ning's health. The calm girl assured that she was fine, as she was an immortality cultivator, and this wound would not harm her. And Ning asked Xian to go and inform the servants about the presence of a snake in the house so that the guards could catch it. The girl immediately ran to warn everyone about the incident. At this time, the lady watched the girl move away. Soon door closed. The guy immediately jumped from the roof to the girl. Dissatisfied, Ning began to kick Li Yuan. She wanted to know why he actually bit her. Yuan replied that her leg looked delicious and he decided to taste it. But the concerned woman thought it was ridiculous, claiming her feet were dirty and smelled. However, the guy in love insisted that Rongrong's body was clean and fragrant. The next moment, the guy was already sitting at the table. With a smile on his face, he began to pour tea from the teapot. Ning noticed that he was still smiling. The girl in love considered him a skillful deceiver. Suddenly, the guy laughed and the girl screamed, accusing him of bullying her. After a few seconds, Li Yuan took Ning Shangrong's hand and asked if they would continue what they were doing. Letting go of his hand, the girl declared that she needed to catch the snake. If she doesn't do this, everyone in the estate will feel in danger. A snake that was able to injure an immortality cultivator would become a serious threat to the house. The flirtatious lady asked Li to help her change her clothes, since her leg, which he had bitten, still hurt. Then the hero asked where her clothes were, which were on the bed. He also became interested in how to dress her properly. But the girl insisted that he listen to her first. Events continued the next day. Opening the door, the girl was met by Li Yuan, who greeted her and Rongrong. However, it was no longer morning, but 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was time to say goodbye to Master Gu and go to Shu Yueo. A few minutes later, they were already at Master Gu's place and greeted him. The master asked how Jun slept, Suan Yu after the snake incident yesterday. The guy said that he slept peacefully, thanks to Master Gu. Ma Shu greeted his sister. He also greeted Mr. Jun Xuan and showed him the letter in his hand. It was a letter demanding that Shaylin be brought to Shuyou Dock the day after their arrival, and it became clear that the demonic cult spy in Shuyou had sent this letter through Ma Shu. Originally, he was planning to go to Shuyou and start working with Shui Lin, but now he is thinking about helping Shui Lin deal with this spy. Since they arrived at the estate a few days ago, it was time to return. He realized that the demonic cult's spy was Pihuanluo, and when the time comes, he will have to change his identity again. Hearing that Li Yuan was about to leave, Xian was upset. The master regretted their departure, but understood their decision. Soon they all said goodbye to the master and Xian together. Shuizhui announced that he had already rented a horse, although it turned out to be quite expensive, so they had to hurry. It was a low-rank heavenly horse that was summoned by Ma Shu. The guy jumped on his horse and shouted that they would see each other in Shuiyue. As a camouflaged agent, he was excellent at reading people's thoughts. At this time, the girl drew her sword. She was going to fly on him, and he would have to hold on to her from behind since his cultivation level was not high. He wrapped his arms around her waist. They gently clung to each other, preparing to fly. A moment later, they were already in the air, beginning their flight. Embracing the sword, they continued on their way to Shuo. At this time, Li Yuan realized that hiding his cultivation level was the right decision. He was incredibly happy because his dream had come true. Soon, the girl asked if it was true that Li Yuan taught the Gu family girl immortality cultivation because Ning sensed her aura. Indeed, he taught her because she wanted to, but he also warned her that many obstacles and difficulties awaited her along the way. The lady immediately asked what the girl answered. It turned out that even such difficulties could not make her change her mind. Ning Shangrong came to the conclusion that she was a good and simple girl, and yesterday when she met Li Yuan, she felt her horror at not knowing who he really was. She also didn't know who he really was. Xian was worried that he would leave her, so she tried to find out as much as possible about him. In her place, the girl would also be horrified, but she hoped that one day he himself would tell her everything. In confusion, the hero did not know what to tell her about the fact that he was from another world, or that he had several wives, and perhaps he decided to keep it all a secret. Sometime later, events continued in Shuiyue. Everyone welcomed the young lady's return. The school students were wondering who this guy was and why the young lady was walking next to him, since he didn't look like a good person. Everyone noticed that Sister Ning had returned and the teacher was waiting for her. The observant guy also noticed that this must be the same Taoist who killed Yue's brother, Li Yuan. The guy's name was Xia Shui Yue. He was Shu Yue's inner disciple, and he was supposed to take the place of the next head, and he was from the same clan as Sister Ning. Watching the guy, the hero wondered if all of Shuyo was like this. He knew that Li Yuan had killed the previous heir of his clan, and therefore he must have realized that he was stronger than him. Therefore, it was not entirely clear why he acted so stupidly, and it seemed that Xia Shuiyue was another fool blinded by love. Xia Shuiyue exclaimed why the hero was ignoring him, as if he didn't know the rules of exchanging names. Their Shuyo clan would never accept such a rude person who kills without a reason. Everyone at school confirmed that their brother Yue was a good person, and he couldn't just become a minion of the demons, since he was very kind and often helped them. The disciples assumed that this guy must be a supporter of a demonic cult himself, and Sister Ning was simply under his influence, or he was threatening her. Looking at the students, the hero compared them to the internet army of his world. Xiashui Yue specifically brought people from the Yue faction here, Longzhang, to pressure him into becoming a demon cult killer. But the hero did not see anything like that at all. Suddenly, the man ordered everyone to be silent, pointing out Yue's proven involvement, Longzhang, to a demonic cult, and he didn't understand why everyone kept denying it. This man was Pavilion Master Zhang, who said that Miss was waiting for the head, and she had done a great job. The attentive man also noticed that the same son-in-law was standing next to the girl. The hero was a little shocked to learn that he would soon be getting married. Outraged, Xiashui Yu exclaimed that this had not yet been decided and was outraged by Pavilion Master Zhang's attitude. Zhang ordered the young man to be silent, as he was only a junior and had no right to say such things in front of him. And even if his father was a great elder, he had to obey the laws of the place and know his place. At the same time, the hero realized that Xiaoshui Yue is the son of a great elder, and it is no wonder he is so arrogant. The guy only said that he was telling the truth, but Zhang did not think so, because he was patient for the sake of Elder Zhou's peace of mind, but would definitely take action. And since the man said so, the guy still decided to listen to his words. Li Yuan regretted that if this guy had attacked him first, he would have been forced to defend himself. The water in this small Shuyuo pond was cloudier than he expected. In a moment, the couple found themselves at the door, next to her father's domain. Zhang invited the young people to go through this door. At this time, the hero was thinking that Ningting Shan, the head of Shuyuo, was too protective of his daughter, keeping her with him like some kind of precious stone. He had defamed his pearl, and perhaps his father was going to take action against the guy. Ning Shangrong took the hero's hand. Ning Shangrong reassured the hero, assuring him that her father was a man of his word and was not going to cause him trouble. With a smile, she also joked that he even dared to steal her clothes while she was washing, and did not understand why he was afraid of her father then. Before entering the house, they met Ning Tingshan, Ning Shangrong's father. The girl clung to the hero even more out of fear. Seeing this, the father was at first angry and perplexed. The hero thought about the fact that all fathers closely monitor their daughters and worry about their well-being. As the hero expected, all fathers are the same when it comes to protecting their daughter. The hero decided that he should introduce himself and bow to Ning's father. He also thought about the fact that he was meeting the girl's parents for the first time. According to tradition, when you meet a girl's parents, it is usually customary to give some kind of gifts, such as magical weapons, pills, or treasures. Suddenly, the hero remembered his treasure bag, which he took from Yue Longzhang, but I'm not sure there's anything valuable in it. The guy decided to check his bag and find out what he found in it. Suddenly, it dawned on the hero, and he decided to give the painting as a sign of gratitude for the hospitality. The old man became angry, believing that the hero underestimated his daughter and considered her unhappy. The hero realized that the old man was trying to exert moral pressure. The hero clarified that this is a scroll that looks shabby, but it can be exchanged for a valuable treasure. The old man began to explain what a sacred beast is and what its value is. A small quarrel began, and the hero felt that the old man was playing foul. The hero asked the old man who he was and learned that his name was Zhou Wenzui. It turned out that Zhou Wenzui is the adopted son of one of the great elders of Shuyue, which explained his influential position and attention to the daughter of Ning Tingshan. And the hero also decided to find out the old man's cultivation level. Embittered Zhou Wenrui wanted to know what the younger man's behavior was leading to. It turned out that the elder was in the nascent soul stage, and the hero asked a question about age. But the old man insisted that the hero should not think that he can behave as he pleases in Shuo, just because his daughter is in love with him. The guy joked, asking the old man if he could answer his question or if his hearing had deteriorated with age. The old man got angry at this attack and tried to attack the hero. In response to the old man's attack, a thunderclap followed, and it almost reached the hero. The hero remained stoic and called the old man short-tempered, noting that his cultivation level was not that high. This angered the old man even more, and he asked what the hero said. The brave guy replied that if the old man was going to get money after his violent death, then he didn't have it, but he had enough for the coffin. In response to the old man's threats, the hero had a magic sphere in his hand. After using the sphere, the hero acquired a blue aura. This shocked the evil old man. He felt the influence of the hero's aura and began to be in the magic circle. The ability that the hero used was called the Shackles of Fog. The hero secured the shackles on the old man, who began to experience severe pain and scream. After the attack, old man Zhou Wenrui sat on the floor and was silent. He didn't understand how his nascent soul powers were blocked. Ning Tingshan's father was also at a loss. The embittered old man could not understand how his powers were blocked. Ning Tingshan's father was also dumbfounded by what happened. Ning Xiangrong watched what was happening and was worried. The hero continues to explain that in the world of immortal Taoists there is an interesting rule. The lower someone's immortality cultivation level, the more they should learn from those with a higher level. At the moment, the old man was 300 years old, and his cultivation level was at the third stage of nascent soul. While Li was several centuries younger, his cultivation level had reached the 9th stage of nascent soul. The old man still considered himself the messenger of heaven and the ruler of the 5 elements. But what good is that if he cannot defeat the hero, and people say that one must respect those who are stronger? That is why the hero advised turning to an elder for help. The indignant and embittered old man believed that the guy had no right to intimidate the elder. After a moment, he turned to the head for help. The worried man did not know what to say to the elder. Soon the man turned to his son-in-law, because Elder Zhou Wenjui has made great contributions to the development of Shuyuo, and he cannot lose his dignity. Hearing his father-in-law's response, the hero realized that it was Ningxian's weak personality that had brought Shuyu into such chaos, and he, as a son-in-law, decided to obey his request. And soon the hero freed the old man from the shackles of magic. After his release, the old man had his dantian. This was insurance in case Elder Zhou Wenrui would decide to take revenge on him. But the hero was not worried since the elder could still carry out his cultivation. But from that moment on, Li Yuan decided to keep an eye on his dantian. Closely watching the hero, the old man was silent, but was clearly annoyed. Ning Tingshan asked his son-in-law to sit down and asked if he could take a look at the painting, since he was studying painting and calligraphy. The hero good-naturedly handed him the picture. When the scroll opened before them, they realized that it was the original work of the saint. They were amazed at the beauty of the work, looking at it with a flurry of surprise. Even the old man was amazed at the gift Li Yuan gave to Ning Tingshan. The hero realized that Shiqian's painting was a genuine work of the saint. Zhou Wenrui exclaimed that this was indeed the power of a saint. Approaching the hero, the old man wanted to know where he got this picture. Answering indignantly, the guy said that he was sorry, but he had no right to tell him this information. The father was happy, and he and Ning Tingshan could go to rest together in Shueyue, and after the proceedings with Yue with Longjiang, they could discuss the wedding. The guy was surprised that his father didn't even try to kill him, having realized this. Sometime later, Ning led the hero to the place where he would live. She lived here as a child until she moved into the next room. Her father reacted so strongly to this power of the saint, and the girl wanted to know what this picture was. The lady only knew that hundreds of years ago, many saints appeared, but many of them later disappeared, and only her father and Elder Zhou may have survived this era. And if Li Yuan does anything to Elder Zhou again, Wenju, then he will definitely harbor a grudge against him. Smiling, the guy replied that he was still able to cope with it, although he had not fully recovered. Despite how good he was, Ning Tingshan was still very worried about him. A moment later, Li kissed Ning with complete passion. The girl was flattered by this behavior of the hero and felt very pleased. Another long and eventful day awaited them. With joy, the girl threw herself into the hero's arms. The old man admitted that this guy had the same cultivation stage as him. But Zhou Wenrui did not sense the spiritual power of Tao in him. Surprised, Ning Tingshan did not understand how this was possible. Possessing the nascent soul stage without spiritual powers is only possible in 2 ways. The first option was that he was injured when he reached the nascent soul stage and had to seal his nascent soul. Or he had ascended to this stage by taking special pills. and he would forever remain at the nascent soul stage, and he was too young, so the elder was sure that this was the second option. And if this is so, then the hero will not be happy. Pills and adding attributes from cards are somewhat similar, but cards are much more convenient in this regard, and the only difference is that attributes do not give the innate power of the nascent soul stage. Therefore, he cannot use the power of the nascent soul stage, and at the moment he is in the last stage of core formation. The attributes of the cards have raised it by 10, and in truth, he does not even have a golden core. If he degrades even a little, then his strength will be equal to that of the 27th level of the initial stage, but he does not even have the spiritual power of Tao. In short, Li Yuan is at the 36th level Qi cultivation stage, but in this world there are also those who look like a great genius on the outside, but are actually at the 7th level, 7th Qi cultivation stage. He needs to train harder, otherwise, if he meets a truly strong opponent, he will have neither powerful weapons nor spiritual powers, since he is just an empty shell, and he will not be able to do anything. The hero remembered the note that Ma Shu gave him, which stated that they needed to meet at the Moon Lake Pond the day after tomorrow. Ning Tingshan went there to avoid him. In Shuyue, with a cultivation level higher than the nascent soul stage, so he shouldn't worry about an ordinary encounter with a demonic cult spy. Everything will change if Pi Huanluo appears here. The hero lay down on the bed and said that his head hurt because of this lady. Someone asked him who he was talking about. The hero got out of bed, feeling that there was something in front of him. In front of him was an entity that looked like gray smoke. Suddenly, she turned into a human. It was the same Pi Huanluo who appeared in front of Li Yuan out of nowhere. A girl came, exactly the one who was looking for a hero. Without wasting any time, she approached him, introducing herself as Pi Huanluo. Showing her feelings, she declared that she belonged only to Jun Xuanyu. She wondered if Jun would then Xuan belongs only to her, Pi Huanluo. The guy was stunned and didn't know how to answer her. After all, he felt how her gentle hands could suddenly squeeze his head. No one warned that complete devotion does not guarantee that she will not do anything to him. When a person's love goes beyond the bounds of reason, it is frightening. Having come to his senses, the guy decided to find out what she was doing here. The girl thought that he had finally stopped avoiding her, so she took the initiative. He was supposed to meet a demonic cult spy in the vicinity of Shuyuo, and the girl thought that he should know that she would be there too. With horror, he realized that it was precisely that message, and initially the meeting was not planned in the vicinity of Shuyuo. But the girl was afraid that he would not come and change the meeting place. So she sent him a signal. Listening to all this, the guy understood that he should have guessed. He was punished for his mockery of the stupidity of others. Pi Huanluo asked him not to be discouraged, because her Juan should not give up without even fighting. Their love binds them so that no matter where he is, she can always find him. The same is true for him. Thanks to him, she will always be able to find him. Realizing that the girl had infected him with a parasite, he wanted to know when she did it. After all, he realized that the last time they saw Pi Huanluo was in the form of Jiang Feng. This meant that she recognized him then. The lady admitted that it was true, and he seemed incredibly sweet when he tried to be impolite and rude. This statement caused the hero to become even more worried, and he stepped back. He asked the girl to stay away from him, as he had no intention of giving up, even if he died today. And this parasite was created by a cultivator at the unification stage, and he would not be able to get rid of it at his level. Jumping onto the bed, the lady asked the guy if he was afraid of her. In a terrifying form, she demanded an answer. Then she whispered in her ear that everyone should be afraid of her except him. From that moment on, the guy thought that she wanted to kill him. But this was definitely not in his plans, because if this continues, he risks losing his life, and he needs to come up with something. In confusion, the hero said that he was afraid of Pi Huanluo. The girl added that she was never afraid of him. Otherwise, they would not have met. Suddenly, outside the door, Ning Shangrong warned that he was going to come see him. The hero exclaimed that she should not do this and should not enter. The lady immediately asked what was the matter, not understanding what was happening. Remembering the awkwardness of the situation, the hero thought that all girls know how to arrive on time, and such coincidences do not just happen. The hero only replied that everything was fine, and the girl should just wait outside. The worried lady wanted to know if he was sure everything was fine, because she heard the trembling in his voice. The homewrecker exclaimed that beloved Jun Xuanya is waiting for him outside, while he, the one who is going to marry her, lies here, hugging another girl. Feeling interested, the girl continued to press him. She felt that her Jun Chuan is not so clean because it smelled like another girl. Ning was still unsure, but since he assured her that everything was fine, she believed him. Turning, she quietly left, a little disappointed with the guy. Meanwhile, the hero was thinking about how to get out of this situation. And he asked the girl to listen to him. But the impudent lady simply shut his mouth and ordered him to be silent. Looking at the door, she noticed that his lover had left, and the guy was glad that Ning Shangrong left. But it turned out that this was not the case, and the girl's shadow was visible through the door. The lady asked the hero whether he thought the girl would come in or not. Smiling, the guy replied that she wouldn't come in because he told her so. At this time, Ning Shangrong remembered that on the day when Gu Xiyin knocked on the door, she and Jun Xuanem were together. Trying to get rid of these thoughts, the girl believed that it was all her imagination. There were only her and Jun in this pavilion Xuan, and maybe he's just training hard right now, and she shouldn't interfere and disturb him. Suddenly, a scream was heard from behind the door. The lady was worried about Xuan, thinking that an old wound had opened or his spiritual power was unstable after his cultivation level dropped. The hero reassured her, saying that everything was fine and asked her not to worry, since the training was too exciting. He just cultivated, and his spiritual power skyrocketed and then decreased, which is why he said it was exciting. Recently, Ning Tingshan told Xian that she had been training and busy. But she could not think badly about her lover, because she believed that there could be no betrayal. Then she decided to guard him outside while he concentrated on training. The blushing guy asked her not to do this, claiming that he could handle it himself. But the girl has nothing else to do, and she came here to meet him, and she said that this time she will protect him, even if he is stronger than her. All this because the lady wanted to feel like she could be at least a little useful. The hero was touched and asked her not to worry, since it was his choice. It looks like the girl's choice now supports his cheating, and she will have to wait outside all night. The caring guy said that it was already late at night and he was worried that she might get hypothermic. Ning objected, claiming that immortals could not catch a cold. After that, the guy said that he was worried that she was there alone, and she better go to bed. And in any case, he will be fine. The girl did not believe him and believed that he was just trying to calm her down. The guy, apparently, had everything under control, and he would come to her later, but for now he asked her to go to her room. The embarrassed girl blushed and said that she would then wait for him there. Pi Huanluo wanted to know how her lover Jun Xuan will make eye contact after this. But now that he was in this position, any wrong word he said could cost him his head. As if this is not a knee pillow, but a guillotine. The guy admitted that now his head is in the girl's hands, and now she needs to decide what to do. The affectionate girl began to massage the hero's head. Soon, the hero wanted to know if she was angry anymore. The girl was surprised that he noticed that she was angry. He realized that her actions were motivated by anger, since she thought that he was afraid of her. However, he did not feel any fear of her at all. It was just unexpected for him, and this is not the same thing. It would be strange if he were speechless at her sudden appearance in his room. He also admitted that he really likes Ning Shengrong. The girl asked him if he was afraid that she would kill him after such words. Smiling, the guy suggested that she would not do this. She also smiled as the guy showed confidence. If she really intended to kill him, she would have acted differently instead of entertaining such nonsense, and her calm demeanor showed that their relationship was still working. The hero was sure that she would not kill him, since no one in the world understood her better than him, and no one could treat her like an ordinary girl, knowing that she was a Rakshasa witch. And no one could love her like he did. When it comes to a yandere whose relationship scale has reached the limit, it is important to treat her the same way she treats you. And that is why the hero was so fearless. The witch also admitted that he is the only one who treats her this way, and she devoted all her human feelings to him. Suddenly, the hero exclaimed that he would be the only one Pi Huanluo needed, because she belongs to him entirely, both body and soul. However, he was interested in something else, and he was a real egoist. Others may like him in the future, and many others may like him. But in this world there is only one Zhuan, which belongs to her, and only one Pi Huanluo, which belongs to him. It didn't matter whether she thought he was cocky or a villain, he completely merged with her, and she took a special place in his life. He had already grabbed her and was not going to let go for a minute. Immediately afterwards, he kissed her, because to him she was more important than everyone else. Suddenly, the hero felt as if she had removed the love poison, but instead something else remained in his heart. She broke his heart on purpose. Realizing this, the hero reflected on how she got rid of the parasite and broke his heart in return. There was nothing human about her. The girl added that the guy shouldn't worry about it, because she broke his heart with a magic knife that she had never shown to anyone before, and now she has it. And if he refuses Pi Huanluo, she will die.